The land of Canada holds secrets beneath its vast forests, sprawling plains, and frozen lakes, ancient mysteries that have defied explanation for centuries. From eerie stone structures to unexplained artifacts, these enigmas challenge everything we thought we knew about the past. Who were the forgotten peoples who once walked these lands? What remains of their civilizations lie buried, waiting to reveal their stories? Join us as we unravel 3 hours of bizarre archaeological discoveries that continue to baffle experts. Prepare for a journey into the unknown, where history blurs into the realm of the unexplainable. Beneath the windswept shores of Nova Scotia, Canada, lies a small, unassuming island that has captivated the imagination of explorers, treasure hunters, and historians for centuries. Oak Island. Its dense forests and rocky shores hide a riddle that has baffled all who have attempted to unravel it. The story begins in 1795, when 3 young men, curious about a peculiar depression in the ground, began digging. What they discovered, buried deep beneath the soil, was unlike anything they had expected. Layers of wood, stone, and earth, arranged with such deliberate precision that it could not have been a mere natural formation. As the years passed, the search for the so-called money pit would yield only fragments of answers, pieces to a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve. Early theories ranged from the mundane to the extraordinary. Some believed the pit was nothing more than a natural sinkhole or a collapsed well. Others, however, proposed a more mysterious origin. Could this be the hiding place of pirate treasure? The legendary Captain Kidd's lost riches? Or perhaps the spoils of a long-forgotten society whose wealth had been secreted away for centuries? As excavation continued through the 19th and 20th centuries, a pattern began to emerge. The diggers uncovered a series of strange objects: stone tablets, pieces of gold, and what appeared to be a stone bearing a cryptic inscription. In 1866, one such tablet, found deep within the pit, was thought to bear a message in a code that no one has yet deciphered. Some say it hints at an ancient secret, buried long before European settlers arrived in the Americas. But it wasn't just treasure that seemed to lurk beneath Oak Island's soil. The mystery deepened with each new discovery. A series of underground tunnels and chambers, seemingly constructed with the intent to protect something precious, were found snaking through the island like the veins of a hidden heart. These tunnels, often flooded with seawater, suggested a deliberate effort to thwart anyone who might try to steal what lay buried beneath. Theories began to spiral, and the mystery only grew. Some suggested the pit was the work of the Freemasons, or perhaps the Knights Templar, an ancient order with ties to secret knowledge and wealth. Could the treasure be connected to the sacred artifacts lost during the Crusades? Others proposed the possibility of a link to the lost colony of Roanoke, or even that the pit was the final resting place of an ancient civilization's riches, left behind by a people who vanished long before recorded history. Yet, for all the theories and the decades of effort, Oak Island has yielded few concrete answers. The pit remains an enigma. The treasure hunters, some of whom have invested their entire fortunes into the search, have encountered numerous setbacks: cave-ins, flooding, and mysterious mechanical failures that seem to thwart every attempt at discovery. In recent years, new technologies, such as sonar scanning and drilling equipment, have offered fresh insights, but the island's secrets remain stubbornly elusive. And so, the mystery of Oak Island continues, its potential rewards dangling just beyond reach. Is it truly the site of lost treasure? Or is it something more profound, an undiscovered chapter in human history, a relic of an ancient world whose truths are too difficult for us to comprehend? There are those who have come to believe that the mystery will never be solved, that Oak Island's treasures are destined to remain buried forever. Yet others are convinced that the key to unlocking the island's secrets is within reach, that one day the money pit will finally give up its treasure, its message, or perhaps its truth. But until that day comes, the questions remain. What was hidden here, and why? Who knew of its existence, and what did they intend to protect? Was the mystery of Oak Island truly a treasure hunt, or something far deeper, something we have yet to understand? As we continue to search, the island waits. Silent, watchful, its secrets buried beneath the soil, just out of reach. As we leave behind the shadows of Oak Island, where treasure hunters and historians continue to chase after what may never be found, we journey westward to another corner of Canada where yet another mystery lies waiting to be understood. Here, in the quiet expanse of Alberta's prairies, a stone of immense size rests, alone and seemingly out of place, the Okotoks Erratic. This colossal boulder, known to the Blackfoot people as Okotoks, meaning rock, is one of the largest known glacial erratics in the world. Measuring roughly 9 meters long, 5 meters wide, and 5 meters high, it weighs an estimated 16,000 tons. Its sheer size and imposing presence are enough to provoke awe and wonder, but it is not just the stone's scale that captivates those who encounter it. It is the mystery of how it came to rest here, far from its geological origins. The Okotoks Erratic, a granite boulder, is believed to have been transported to this location during the last ice age, approximately 12,000 years ago. As the vast glaciers of the Laurentide ice sheet retreated northward, they carried with them massive rocks and debris, depositing them across the land in a phenomenon known as glacial erratics. But the Okotoks Erratic is not like other stones left behind by the glaciers. For one, its origins are much farther north, in the Canadian Shield region, roughly 300 kilometers away. It raises a simple but profound question. How did this stone, this enormous rock, come to be placed here, in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains? For many years, the explanation was relatively straightforward. Geologists and scientists attributed the presence of the Okotoks Erratic to the natural processes of glacial movement, assuming that the ice sheet had simply carried it across the land and deposited it here during the Ice Age. The path of the glaciers was well known, and it seemed clear that the boulder was just another remnant of that immense, slowly moving force of nature. Yet, as with so many of Earth's enigmas, there are layers to the story that go beyond the scientific consensus. Some local legends, passed down by the indigenous peoples of the area, suggest that the Okotoks Erratic is not just a stone carried by ice. To the Blackfoot people, the boulder holds spiritual significance. It is said to have been a marker, an ancient symbol placed by the Great Spirit to guide those who walked the land. The Blackfoot view the stone as a sacred object, one that has stood witness to the history of their people for countless generations. This belief raises intriguing questions. Could this massive rock have been intentionally placed here by an ancient civilization or culture long before the last ice age? Was the erratic brought to this site by human hands, not by glaciers, as part of some unknown ritual or event? Such ideas are speculative, of course, but they open a door to a broader mystery, the possibility that there are deeper layers of history embedded in the landscape that we have yet to understand. In recent years, this possibility has gained more attention. Archaeologists and anthropologists, while still adhering to the traditional theory of glacial movement, have begun to consider the idea that the stone may have held significance for early human cultures. Some even suggest that it could be part of a larger network of sacred sites that have yet to be fully uncovered. While no direct evidence supports these ideas, the fact that the Okotoks Erratic has remained in the collective memory of the Blackfoot people for so long, and its association with oral traditions and spiritual beliefs, suggests that this stone has been a part of human history in a way that transcends its geological origins. This leads to a particularly fascinating line of inquiry. Could the location of the Okotoks Erratic have been deliberately chosen? There are numerous examples throughout the world of ancient cultures selecting specific sites for their spiritual or ceremonial importance. In many cases, large natural objects such as stones, mountains, or bodies of water were seen as points of connection between the human world and the divine. In this context, the Okotoks Erratic could be more than just a geological anomaly. It could be a symbol, a physical representation of something greater than the land itself. One of the more speculative theories centers on the idea that the Erratic may be connected to an ancient, pre-Columbian civilization, one that left no written record of its existence. Could the boulder be a remnant of a lost culture, a group of people whose influence once stretched across the continent? Could they have had a deep understanding of the landscape and its sacred elements, positioning stones like the Okotoks Erratic as markers of a long-forgotten journey or pilgrimage? Such theories, though intriguing, remain firmly within the realm of speculation. Geologists and historians continue to argue that the stone's placement is simply the result of the natural forces of the Ice Age. After all, the Erratic's composition matches other rocks found in the Canadian Shield region, and its movements can be traced to the retreat of glaciers. Yet, even with this evidence, the mystery of why this particular stone stands alone, towering over the land, endures. Some researchers have pointed to other similar stones scattered throughout the region, stones that, like the Okotoks Erratic, appear to have been placed with deliberate intention, or perhaps to mark significant geographical points. Are these isolated boulders part of a larger, unexplained pattern that humans have yet to recognize? Could they form a network, a series of ancient markers that have somehow withstood the test of time? While no definitive evidence has emerged to support such claims, the possibility of an ancient, forgotten map embedded in the landscape is a tantalizing one. Moreover, the stone's location at the foot of the Rocky Mountains adds another layer of intrigue. The Rocky Mountains themselves have long been a site of mystery and wonder. From the lost expeditions of early settlers to the indigenous people's spiritual beliefs about the mountains, the region has a long history of being seen as a place where the boundaries between the human and the divine blur. Could the Erratic be a marker pointing to something hidden within these mountains, something yet to be discovered? As the years pass, more and more questions are raised, but the answers remain elusive. The Okotoks Erratic, like so many of Earth's great mysteries, continues to stand in silent testimony to the unknown. It is a monument not just to the forces of nature that placed it there, but to the enduring mystery of the human connection to the land, an unbroken thread that stretches from the distant past to the present. And so, we are left to ponder, what was its true purpose? Was it a stone left by glaciers, a sacred marker placed by ancient hands, or something else entirely? The Okotoks Erratic continues to defy simple explanations, standing as a silent witness to the passage of time, holding its secrets close. As we gaze upon it, we are reminded that there are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered, perhaps not just in the earth, but in the stories of the people who have walked upon it for millennia. As we leave behind the stark beauty of Alberta's Okotoks Erratic, where the very landscape seems to carry echoes of ancient movements and unanswered questions, we travel westward toward the arid plains of British Columbia. Here, nestled quietly among the rugged hills and dry terrain, lies one of the most unique and mystifying sights in North America, a natural wonder that has captivated the curiosity of both locals and outsiders for centuries. The Spotted Lake. Spotted Lake, or Kiluk, as it is known to the indigenous Okanagan people, appears at first glance to be an ordinary body of water, if not for the strange and curious sight that it presents. The lake's surface is dotted with dozens of circular, multicolored pools, creating the illusion of an otherworldly, speckled canvas. These pools, varying in size, are filled with different shades of yellow, green, and blue, while the surrounding water appears to have a deep, opaque tint. The patterns of the lake seem almost unnatural, like an artist's design etched upon the earth. The lake, spanning an area of roughly 30 acres, has long been a place of fascination, not only for its strange appearance, but for its historical and spiritual significance. For centuries, the indigenous peoples of the area, particularly the Okanagan Nation, have regarded Spotted Lake as a sacred site, a place of healing and purification. The Okanagan people have known for generations that the waters of the lake hold special properties, and they have used its mineral-rich mud and water for medicinal purposes. It is said that the various mineral pools in the lake contain high concentrations of magnesium, calcium, sodium, and sulfate, which were historically believed to have therapeutic effects. The Okanagan would travel to Spotted Lake to immerse themselves in the water or to collect the mud for its supposed healing properties. In fact, the lake's unique mineral content is what sets it apart from most other bodies of water in the region. At various times of the year, particularly in the summer months when the water level is lower, the mineral pools become more prominent. The high concentrations of minerals cause the water to evaporate, leaving behind a patchwork of colored deposits. Some say that the arrangement of these pools follows a pattern that might hint at a deeper, more intricate design, perhaps even an intentional one. For centuries, the full significance of Spotted Lake's oddities remained a mystery, with few explanations beyond the practical and medicinal uses described by the Okanagan. However, as outsiders began to take an interest in the site, more questions arose about its true origins and what it might signify. Some have suggested that the mineral-rich waters were formed naturally by geological processes, while others have proposed more speculative theories, raising the question, could the lake have been intentionally altered or even constructed by an ancient civilization? The scientific explanation for the lake's appearance revolves around the unique geological conditions that allow minerals to accumulate in the water over thousands of years. The region where Spotted Lake is located is known for its arid climate, and the evaporation of the water during the warmer months results in the concentration of these minerals. As the water evaporates, the minerals, particularly magnesium sulfate, form into solid deposits, creating the colorful circular patterns seen in the lake today. In this sense, the lake's spots are an artifact of nature, a byproduct of an environment that is rich in both minerals and arid conditions. Yet, even with this understanding, questions remain. The question of why the lake's minerals appear in such a symmetrical and seemingly intentional arrangement has led some to speculate that it is not merely a product of nature, but perhaps something far more significant. Could the unusual design of the pools be the result of human intervention long before modern scientific explanations came to be? There is no direct evidence to support such claims, but the possibility of an ancient, mysterious culture leaving behind a coded pattern in the landscape is an idea that some find compelling. Perhaps most fascinating of all is the continued reverence for the lake by the Okanagan people. To them, the lake is more than just a natural wonder. It is a spiritual and cultural landmark. The importance of Spotted Lake to the Okanagan people goes beyond its medicinal properties. It is a place that is tied to their heritage, their identity, and their spiritual beliefs. The lake has been a central part of their cultural practices for centuries, and even today, they consider it a sacred site, deserving of protection and respect. In recent years, the lake has become a popular destination for tourists, and its unique appearance has drawn attention from both geologists and visitors alike. However, efforts to preserve its integrity have become a point of contention. In 1994, the area surrounding Spotted Lake was designated as a protected site, in part due to its cultural significance to the Okanagan people. Yet, with growing interest from the public, the question remains, how should this sacred site be treated in the face of modern curiosity and exploration? Some researchers have suggested that the lake's significance to the Okanagan people may go beyond mere physical healing. The belief that the water holds spiritual properties, capable of purifying and restoring balance to those who immerse themselves in it, hints at a deeper, perhaps forgotten understanding of the natural world. Is it possible that ancient cultures, whether indigenous or otherwise, Knew of the healing properties of certain natural elements in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand? Could there be a connection between Spotted Lake's natural formations and ancient practices that have been lost to history? For many, these questions remain unanswered. The scientific explanation for the lake's origins is well understood, but the full depth of its cultural and spiritual significance remains elusive. To the Okanagan people, Spotted Lake is not just a place of beauty. It is a symbol of the enduring connection between the land and the people who have lived on it for generations. Yet, for outsiders, the mystery persists. What lies beneath the surface of Spotted Lake? What secrets have been preserved in its waters for millennia? And what knowledge, perhaps long forgotten, might still be hidden within the patterns of its pools? As we reflect on this mysterious and sacred site, we are reminded that the answers to many of the world's most intriguing mysteries are not always found in the scientific data alone. Sometimes the truths we seek lie in the stories passed down through generations, in the spiritual connections that bind people to the land, and in the mysteries that remain just out of reach, waiting for us to uncover them. Spotted Lake, with its myriad spots and vibrant colors, is a reminder that some mysteries are as much about belief and reverence as they are about geology and science. What we know for certain is that Spotted Lake is a site of deep cultural significance, a place where the land speaks in a language that few can fully understand. And so, the question remains, what other secrets does this enigmatic lake hold, waiting for the right moment or the right mind to unlock them? As we continue our exploration of the ancient mysteries that still baffle humanity, Spotted Lake reminds us that some answers may lie not in the material world, but in the spiritual and the unexplored corners of human history. As we move westward from the sacred waters of Spotted Lake, our journey takes us deep into the heart of Massachusetts, where another ancient mystery beckons. There, nestled quietly along the banks of the Taunton River, lies a rock unlike any other. A rock that holds within its surface cryptic symbols that have puzzled historians, archaeologists, and scholars for centuries. This is Dighton Rock. Dighton Rock stands as a solitary enigma, its surface etched with petroglyphs that remain as mysterious today as they were when first encountered by Europeans in the early 17th century. The rock itself is large, measuring roughly 12 feet by 7 feet, and its surface is covered with a range of symbols, shapes, and figures, some carved deeply, others faintly visible, their meaning still elusive. Located in what is now Dighton Rock State Park, the stone sits at the edge of the river, an ancient marker of some kind, its message hidden in plain sight. At first glance, the markings appear almost random, a chaotic array of lines, circles, spirals, and animal-like shapes. Some are geometric in form, while others seem to represent human figures or faces. These markings, however, are not confined to a single style or pattern. Instead, they are an amalgamation of various motifs, some of which seem to share similarities with the petroglyphs created by Native American tribes of the region. Yet, there are also features on the rock that defy simple explanation, leading to a long history of debate and speculation about their origin. The earliest documented encounter with Dighton Rock occurred in 1680, when the Reverend John Danforth, a minister and early colonial historian, noted the unusual carvings. By the time European settlers began to colonize the region, the rock had already captured the attention of various indigenous tribes. The Wampanoag, whose ancestral lands surround the area, likely knew the rock well, but it is unclear whether they had a specific cultural or spiritual association with it. Their oral traditions offer no definitive answer, and no written records exist from this time to explain the meaning of the petroglyphs. In the centuries following Danforth's documentation, the interpretations of the markings began to multiply. In the 19th century, some scholars proposed that the petroglyphs were the work of early Native American tribes, a visual record of their rituals or storytelling traditions. Yet, these explanations have not fully satisfied those searching for a more definitive understanding. The diversity of the symbols and the techniques used to carve them suggested to some that Dighton rock might have been visited by multiple cultures over time, perhaps even long before European settlers arrived. For example, certain marks resemble those found in Native American rock art, such as the spiral or the figure-8 shapes. But these are not the only features of the rock. Some of the symbols seem far less familiar, resembling forms seen in European or even Mediterranean iconography. A recurring debate revolves around a series of seemingly stylized ship-like symbols on the rock, leading to a rather intriguing theory. Could the carvings be evidence of pre-Columbian contact between Native Americans and European explorers? Some early scholars, such as the 19th century antiquarian William Bartram, suggested that the petroglyphs were created by Norse explorers who arrived in the Americas long before Columbus. Bartram, who was particularly fascinated by the idea of Viking exploration of North America, speculated that the carvings were left by Norsemen who had made their way down the northeastern coast of the continent. The idea of Viking expeditions to the Americas has long been a subject of interest, particularly with the discovery of Norse settlements in Greenland and Newfoundland, and some researchers believe that Dighton rock may be one of the few surviving markers of their passage. This theory, though captivating, is not without its detractors. Many scholars remain unconvinced that the petroglyphs were created by Europeans, let alone Norsemen. Some argue that the ship-like shapes could be symbolic representations of the Wampanoag people's relationship with the water or other indigenous connections to seafaring. Others suggest that the marks might simply be a form of artistic expression or ritual created by unknown Native American tribes that once inhabited the region. In more recent times, the question of who created the petroglyphs has expanded to include even more speculative ideas. Some have proposed that the markings were made by ancient civilizations, potentially from distant parts of the world. Could the symbols be a remnant of an ancient, long-lost civilization, one that predated the known history of Native Americans or Europeans in the Americas? Could this ancient culture have possessed a unique form of writing or symbology that we have yet to understand? One particularly intriguing idea involves the possibility that the markings on Dighton rock were the work of a now forgotten Mediterranean culture, perhaps the Phoenicians or even the Egyptians, who may have sailed across the Atlantic long before Christopher Columbus. The theory of ancient transoceanic contact is controversial, but it has gained traction with proponents who point to other ancient artifacts found across the Americas that appear to bear signs of foreign influences. Could Dighton rock be part of a broader, ancient, and as yet undiscovered history of global exploration? Despite these tantalizing theories, there is no concrete evidence to support the idea that Dighton rock is the product of a foreign civilization. The most widely accepted explanation remains that the petroglyphs are of Native American origin, created by indigenous peoples with ties to the surrounding region. But even this theory raises its own questions. If the Wampanoag people were responsible for the carvings, why do some of the symbols appear to be so unlike other known indigenous art from the area? What does it mean that the rock seems to have attracted the attention of multiple groups over time? Even the number of interpretations of the petroglyphs, the ship-like symbols, the geometric shapes, the human figures, suggests that the rock was more than just a simple object of decoration. Some researchers believe that the site may have served a spiritual or ceremonial purpose, perhaps as a place for indigenous people to mark significant events or navigate their relationship with the natural world. It is possible that the rock itself was a form of map, guiding people across the river or marking the location of an important cultural site. Others propose that the petroglyphs could have been a form of storytelling, capturing the history of the indigenous people in a visual language that has been lost to time. As we examine Dighton rock, one cannot help but wonder how much of its true history is still hidden from us. Could it hold secrets not only about the indigenous peoples who inhabited this land, but also about the larger mysterious history of human exploration across the globe? While scholars continue to debate the origins and meanings of the petroglyphs, one thing is clear. Dighton rock remains a powerful symbol of humanity's enduring desire to leave a mark on the world, to communicate, to preserve history, and to seek answers about the past. And so, the questions remain, answers just out of reach. Could this rock be a marker of a civilization that vanished long before the first Europeans arrived? Or are the symbols simply part of a rich and complex Native American history, waiting to be understood in a new light? As with so many mysteries, Dighton rock leaves us with more questions than answers, inviting us to look deeper into the past, to wonder at the unknown, and to imagine the stories yet untold. As we move further into the depths of North America, the story of ancient cultures continues to unfold, each chapter revealing more about the forgotten peoples who once shaped the land. And now, we turn to a lesser-known yet profoundly intriguing mystery, the Hopewell culture earthworks of Ohio. The earth itself seems to whisper of ancient rituals and forgotten knowledge at these vast geometric formations. Scattered across the rolling hills of Ohio, the Hopewell earthworks are an extraordinary testament to the capabilities and beliefs of a culture that thrived between 200 BCE and 500 CE. Unlike anything we typically associate with early North American civilizations, the earthworks are massive, intricate, and seemingly imbued with purpose, though their full significance remains elusive. At first glance, these monumental structures appear to be little more than elaborate sprawling mounds, large earthen embankments arranged in geometric patterns that stretch over acres of land. They include large circular enclosures, earthen walls, and geometric figures that, when viewed from above, form strikingly precise shapes. These earthworks are found primarily in the Scioto River Valley, a region that once served as the heartland of the Hopewell culture. Among the most famous of these sites are the Serpent Mound and the Hopewell Mound group, both of which offer tantalizing glimpses into the ancient civilization's way of thinking, their relationship with the natural world, and their sense of cosmic order. The Serpent Mound, perhaps the most famous of these earthworks, is a snake-shaped mound that coils and twists its way across the landscape. At nearly 1,300 feet in length, this mound seems to mimic the sinuous form of a serpent, with its body winding in a curvilinear fashion and its tail pointing toward a small burial mound. The purpose of the mound remains unclear. Some archaeologists have suggested it could represent the changing seasons, the lunar phases, or the passage of time, while others point to the possibility of a ritualistic or ceremonial function. What is undeniable, however, is that the site's precise alignment with the solstices suggests a deep understanding of astronomy. The mysteries surrounding the Hopewell earthworks do not end with their designs. These earth embankments were not built by a single individual or group, but rather, they appear to have been constructed over several generations. The labor and organization required to create such massive structures must have been enormous, involving hundreds, if not thousands, of people working in concert. And yet, despite their considerable efforts, the people of the Hopewell culture left no written records, no clear explanation of why these enormous earthworks were constructed. One theory, grounded in more conventional archaeology, posits that the earthworks were part of complex regional ceremonial centers. The Hopewell people, who were skilled in art, agriculture, and trade, may have used these earthworks as focal points for religious or political gatherings. Excavations at these sites have uncovered a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, jewelry, and tools, suggesting that they were used as places for ritual exchange and social interaction. In fact, the Hopewell culture was known for its widespread trade network, which spanned much of the eastern part of North America. Goods such as copper, mica, shells, and obsidian were transported from distant regions, and it is likely that these earthworks served as the gathering places for the exchange of both material goods and spiritual knowledge. Yet, there are aspects of the earthworks that resist explanation, even within this more conventional framework. The geometric precision of these structures, particularly the Serpent Mound, raises questions about the level of knowledge the Hopewell people possessed. How did they construct such exact shapes without modern tools or surveying equipment? And why did they go to such lengths to create complex shapes that seem to hold no immediate practical use? Could it be that their true purpose lay beyond the realm of the purely practical and ventured into the symbolic, the cosmological, or even the spiritual? As with many other ancient sites, speculation about the Hopewell earthworks has given rise to fringe theories. One particularly curious theory suggests that the earthworks were the product of an ancient civilization with a far-reaching knowledge of astronomy, geometry, and engineering, knowledge that somehow transcended the time and place of the Hopewell people themselves. Some have even proposed that the builders were influenced by outside cultures, perhaps even from distant lands across the ocean. This theory, while controversial, resonates with the more speculative interpretations of other ancient sites, such as the idea of transoceanic contact between the Old World and the New World long before Columbus arrived. Could it be that the Hopewell culture was in contact with civilizations far beyond the borders of North America, sharing knowledge and wisdom that shaped their monumental earthworks? Were the patterns seen at Serpent Mound and other sites meant to encode astronomical or calendrical knowledge that was passed down from a forgotten civilization? Some proponents of these theories suggest that the geometric designs were not simply symbolic, but rather encoded hidden knowledge, perhaps related to the stars, or to an ancient understanding of time and the cycles of the Earth. In addition to these theories, there is a growing body of thought suggesting that the earthworks were a means of linking the Earth to the heavens. The Hopewell people, like many ancient cultures, may have believed in a deep connection between the terrestrial and celestial realms. The earthworks, in this interpretation, could have been a physical manifestation of the people's spiritual beliefs, a way to establish a connection to the divine through the very land itself. The shapes and forms of the mounds, the alignment with the solstices and lunar cycles, all point toward an advanced understanding of the cosmos, one that went beyond mere survival and encompassed a profound reverence for the rhythms of the natural world. It's important to note that while some of these fringe theories are speculative, they nonetheless reflect the ongoing fascination with the Hopewell earthworks. What could explain the striking patterns and precision of the earthworks, if not some deeper, more sophisticated cultural or spiritual understanding? And what role did these massive constructions play in the lives of the people who built them? The disappearance of the Hopewell culture, sometime around 500 CE, only deepens the mystery. What happened to the people who built these vast, intricate earthworks? Did their knowledge and practices fade with their society, or was it absorbed by other cultures that followed? Despite centuries of research and exploration, much of the history of the Hopewell culture remains shrouded in mystery. The earthworks, with their staggering scale and celestial alignments, continue to raise questions about the ancient world, questions that remain unanswered to this day. In the end, the Hopewell earthworks stand as a monument to the ingenuity and spirituality of a people whose stories have largely been lost to time. Their massive structures, shaped with care and purpose, serve as a reminder of a world that was once vibrant with meaning, yet now exists only in the traces left behind. Perhaps the true significance of the earthworks is something we will never fully understand, or perhaps the key to unlocking their mysteries still lies buried in the earth, waiting to be discovered by the next generation of archaeologists, historians, and curious minds. As we move forward in our exploration of ancient mysteries, the Hopewell earthworks challenge us to ask, how much do we really know about the ancient cultures that shaped the land? What other hidden symbols, buried beneath the Earth's surface, are waiting to reveal their secrets? And, perhaps most hauntingly, what knowledge and wisdom have we lost to time? The answers to these questions remain as elusive as the mounds themselves, but one thing is certain: the Earth still holds its secrets. The vast expanse of northern Manitoba is a place where the wilderness seems to hold time itself in suspended silence. Its dense forests, winding rivers, and expansive lakes stretching endlessly into the horizon. But beneath the forested canopy, hidden within the jagged rock faces of the Boreal shield, lies a mystery that has intrigued archaeologists and historians alike: the Western Boreal rock carvings. These enigmatic carvings, scattered across remote locations in northern Manitoba, are often referred to as petroglyphs, ancient images etched into the surfaces of rock outcrops by indigenous peoples long before the first European explorers set foot on the continent. What makes these carvings particularly intriguing, however, is not only their age, but also their sheer mystery. Unlike other known petroglyph sites in Canada, the Western Boreal rock carvings feature an extraordinary variety of motifs, many of which have never been fully explained. The carvings themselves are often stark and simple in their forms: geometric patterns, figures resembling animals, and symbols that suggest a deep connection to both the natural world and the spiritual realm. These images are not just decorations on rock, but seem to serve a purpose beyond art. They appear to be a form of communication, a message inscribed into the very bones of the earth. However, as with many ancient symbols, their meaning remains frustratingly elusive. Some of these markings are clearly identifiable: figures of moose, bison, or human-like shapes. But others are so abstract that their interpretation becomes an exercise in pure speculation. The precise origins of these carvings are hard to determine, in part because the area where they are located is remote and largely unexplored. The indigenous peoples of the region, primarily the Cree, Dene, and Ojibwe, are known to have inhabited the boreal forests for thousands of years, and it's believed that the carvings may date back as far as 3,000 years. Despite this long history, however, no direct written records exist to explain the purpose of these rock carvings. Unlike the petroglyphs of the American Southwest or the ancient ruins of Europe, the carvings of northern Manitoba have remained largely undocumented until the modern age. What is known is that the rock carvings are often found near sacred sites or places of cultural significance, including burial grounds, ceremonial centers, or important natural landmarks. In some cases, the carvings are aligned with specific celestial events, such as solstices or lunar phases, suggesting that they may have had a ritualistic or astronomical purpose. Other carvings, more abstract in nature, seem to align with particular rock formations or natural features, hinting at a possible connection to the land itself. It's almost as if the carvings were part of an ancient system of navigation, guiding people through the landscape or marking the passage of time. One particularly striking feature of these petroglyphs is the way in which they reflect the environment in which they were created. Many of the carvings are representations of the local flora and fauna: elk, bears, and even smaller creatures like birds or fish. These symbols suggest a deep reverence for the natural world and may have played a role in the belief systems of the ancient peoples who created them. The connection between humans and animals in indigenous cosmology is often one of mutual respect, with many cultures believing that animals hold spiritual power or act as messengers between the physical and spiritual realms. The inclusion of animal figures in these carvings may, therefore, represent an attempt to communicate with these spirits, seeking guidance or protection. But there is a layer to the Western Boreal rock carvings that goes beyond what we can easily explain through conventional archaeology. Some researchers, while cautious, have proposed that the carvings could be evidence of a much older and more complex tradition of rock art than we have traditionally understood. The patterns found on these rocks sometimes resemble those found in other parts of the world, raising the question of whether the people who created them were part of a larger cultural network, possibly spanning across what is now North America and beyond. Could it be that the Western Boreal rock carvings were created by ancient peoples who were not solely isolated in their local environment, but who were part of a much broader and more interconnected world? Some have speculated that the symbols found in these carvings share similarities with ancient glyphs or symbols from other parts of the world, including the symbols seen in the petroglyphs of the American Southwest or even European rock art traditions. While no definitive evidence has been found to support such theories, it is an intriguing possibility that the peoples of the boreal forests were not just isolated hunter-gatherers, but were part of a global network of ancient peoples who communicated and exchanged knowledge through symbols carved into rock. It's a tantalizing idea, though one that sits in the realm of speculative theory. The more widely accepted view among archaeologists is that the carvings were part of the spiritual and cultural practices of the indigenous peoples of the region. The idea that the carvings represent a form of communication with the spirit world is supported by the traditions of the Cree, Dene, and Ojibwe peoples, many of whom continue to hold these sites in sacred regard. In fact, some of the carvings are still considered sacred by indigenous communities, who believe that the rocks hold spiritual power and that the carvings themselves are not to be interpreted lightly. This reverence for the carvings is not just a modern-day attitude. It is part of a long-standing tradition. Indigenous peoples have passed down oral histories for generations, stories that speak of the rock art as a way to communicate with ancestors, to mark important events, or to bring about spiritual protection. The carvings are seen as more than just images. They are living symbols of cultural continuity, carrying the wisdom and beliefs of past generations into the present. Yet, as with many ancient mysteries, there is a part of the Western Boreal rock carvings that eludes even the most experienced archaeologists and historians. How did the people who created these petroglyphs gain such knowledge of the natural world? Were these carvings meant to mark sacred spaces or merely document a way of life? The abstract nature of some of the symbols only adds to the uncertainty. Could the images have had multiple meanings, or were they simply an expression of artistic or spiritual belief? And, perhaps most provocatively, how much of this knowledge has been lost to time, hidden beneath the surface of the rock? As the world continues to explore these ancient sites, one can't help but wonder, are there more carvings hidden in the vast, remote stretches of northern Manitoba waiting to be discovered? What more could these symbols teach us about the beliefs and practices of the people who created them, and what knowledge might still be buried, waiting for the right moment to emerge? In the silence of the boreal wilderness, where time seems to move at its own pace, the Western Boreal rock carvings stand as a testament to an ancient people's connection to both the earth and the cosmos. They are a reminder that there is still much we do not understand about the ancient world, and perhaps there are more mysteries waiting to be uncovered, if only we know where to look. The carvings are not just relics of the past, they are echoes of a distant time, calling out to us with a message that we have yet to fully decode. We now journey to the heart of Michigan, where dense forests meet the gentle flow of the Crooked River. Tucked away in this unassuming landscape lies a stone circle, its mysterious presence quietly defying easy explanation. The Crooked River Stone Circle, like so many other ancient sites, stands as a silent enigma, its true purpose lost to time but still lingering in the land. What was once a vibrant and purposeful structure now lies largely forgotten, buried beneath the weight of centuries, yet the questions it raises refuse to dissipate. The circle itself is modest, especially when compared to the grandiosity of other ancient stone formations, like Stonehenge or the great stone circles of the British Isles. Yet, there is something compelling about its simplicity, something that invites speculation about its deeper meaning. Made up of large, weather-worn stones arranged in a near-perfect circular pattern, the Crooked River Stone Circle commands attention with its quiet symmetry. The stones vary in size, some towering as high as 5 feet, others smaller and more scattered, yet all seem placed with deliberate care. If this were merely the work of natural forces, water, wind, and time, then its symmetry and the apparent intention behind its layout would surely be the most extraordinary of coincidences. The circle, discovered in the early 20th century, has long been a source of curiosity, both for archaeologists and for the indigenous peoples of the region. The surrounding area, rich with the dense woodlands and the meandering path of the Crooked River, suggests a landscape that once held far more significance than it does today. When first explored, early researchers speculated that the stone circle could have been the work of Native American tribes, particularly the Anishinaabe peoples, who have inhabited the Great Lakes region for centuries. The circle was, after all, located near known settlements and hunting grounds, and it seemed reasonable to assume that the stones were part of a spiritual or ceremonial site built with intent. Yet, the more the circle is studied, the more questions emerge. To begin with, the question of when the stone circle was constructed remains unresolved. While it is clear that the site has been here for thousands of years, the lack of definitive carbon dating and the absence of clear cultural markers make it difficult to determine exactly when this site was first used. Was it built during a time when indigenous groups were actively shaping the landscape to fit their spiritual and social needs? Or is it the remnant of a much older, unknown culture that left no written record? Some have speculated that the stone circle could date back to 1000 BCE, far older than the presence of the Anishinaabe in the area, while others propose that it could be a more recent construction, perhaps a ceremonial site from just a few hundred years ago. The most puzzling aspect of the Crooked River stone circle, however, is not its age, but its purpose. In the years following its discovery, researchers have tried to align the stones with known celestial phenomena, such as the solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles, hoping to find evidence that the circle served an astronomical or ceremonial function. Some believe that the placement of the stones could correspond to particular celestial events, marking the passage of seasons or the alignment of stars. In this sense, the Crooked River stone circle would have functioned much like other ancient megalithic sites across the globe, places where people gathered to observe and interact with the heavens, seeking to align themselves with the larger cosmic order. Yet, no definitive evidence has been found to confirm this theory. While the stones do appear to align with certain cardinal points, the circle's shape and orientation seem to defy easy categorization. Unlike the perfect circles found in places like Britain or Ireland, the Crooked River stone circle is irregular. Its stones do not form a neat geometric ring, but rather an elliptical shape, slightly skewed and asymmetrical. The irregularity of the structure has led some to propose that it was intentionally designed this way to mirror the natural, imperfect world around it. In some ways, it's as if the builders wanted to capture the essence of the landscape itself, wild, untamed, and unpredictable, encapsulating it within the boundaries of the stone circle. For others, the asymmetry of the circle raises more troubling questions. Could the irregularity be a result of intentional cultural influences from outside the region, a sign that the stone circle was the product of a much earlier civilization whose architectural practices differ from those of later Native American groups? Some researchers have suggested that the Crooked River stone circle could be evidence of contact with distant peoples, perhaps from the Mediterranean, or even from the distant reaches of Central or South America, whose architectural practices involved the creation of circular formations as part of a spiritual or astronomical system. This theory, while speculative, is part of a broader wave of thought that questions the prevailing narratives of early American history. Some believe that the idea of isolated native cultures, cut off from the world beyond their immediate landscapes, is too simplistic. Instead, they propose that the stone circle, along with other enigmatic sites across North America, could be evidence of far-reaching contact between indigenous groups and distant civilizations long before European explorers arrived. If true, It would radically reshape our understanding of early human migration and interaction, suggesting a far more interconnected world than previously thought. At the same time, these more speculative theories sit uncomfortably with those who adhere to a more traditional view. Archaeologists who support the idea that the Crooked River Stone Circle was built by indigenous peoples often reject the notion that it was influenced by foreign cultures. They argue that the shape and design of the stone circle are firmly rooted in the natural and spiritual beliefs of the region's Native American groups. In this interpretation, the circle would have served as a place for ritual, for observing the cycles of the natural world, or for marking sacred landmarks. The irregular shape, then, could be a reflection of the landscape itself, shaped not by outside influences, but by the desires of the people who lived in harmony with it. Yet, the mystery persists. If the stone circle was a ceremonial site, what rituals were performed here? Were these rituals tied to the rhythms of nature, the movement of the stars, or the changing of the seasons? Could the site have also functioned as a gathering place for early communities, where people came together for social, spiritual, or political purposes? The possibilities remain tantalizing, but the lack of direct evidence leaves us with more questions than answers. And perhaps this is where the mystery of the Crooked River Stone Circle lies. Unlike the grand, well-documented stone circles of Europe or the Andes, this one remains relatively unknown, a quiet testament to a distant past that resists explanation. Its irregular shape and placement in the dense wilderness only add to its enigmatic allure. Was it built by the ancestors of today's Native American tribes, or does it represent the work of an even older, unknown culture? Could it have been an astronomical observatory, or was it simply a sacred site imbued with spiritual meaning? Or, as some suggest, could it have been a bridge, a symbol of contact, a place where cultures met and shared ideas long before the arrival of Europeans? As we step away from the stone circle, we are left with more questions than answers. The Crooked River Stone Circle, like so many ancient mysteries, invites us to explore the unknown, to consider possibilities we have not yet fully understood. It stands as a reminder that, in the world of ancient archaeology, some of the greatest mysteries may never be fully solved, and some of the most profound questions are the ones that remain suspended, just beyond our reach. As we continue to search for answers, we are left to wonder, what hidden truths might still lie beneath the soil, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? The Crooked River Stone Circle, nestled in the quiet woodlands of Michigan, stands as a curious and mysterious archaeological site. Its unassuming presence invites contemplation and sparks numerous questions about its origin, purpose, and connection to the land. Despite its modest size, the circle's deliberate construction and near-perfect symmetry suggest that it was intentionally built by a culture that understood the significance of their surroundings, though the full meaning behind its design remains a tantalizing enigma. Unlike the more familiar symmetrical stone circles of Europe, the Crooked River Stone Circle is irregular in shape, which leads to intriguing possibilities. Could this asymmetry reflect a more organic, spiritual relationship between the builders and the natural world around them? Some have speculated that the structure could have had astronomical significance, aligning with celestial events or the cycles of the moon. However, no definitive evidence has emerged to confirm this theory, leaving the question open to interpretation. Hidden amidst the dense woodlands of New Hampshire, there exists a mysterious testament to the creativity and spirituality of the Abenaki people, an enigmatic series of rock art sites etched into the surfaces of stone outcrops. These petroglyphs, scattered across the landscape, are remnants of a bygone era, created by a culture whose traditions, practices, and stories continue to intrigue and puzzle us. The Abenaki rock art sites stand as a silent reminder of a deep connection between ancient peoples and the land they inhabited, yet their meanings remain elusive, raising questions about the true purpose of these sacred markings. The rock art itself is both captivating and enigmatic. The images carved into the stone surfaces are a tapestry of symbols, abstract shapes, figures that resemble animals, and geometric patterns that seem to stretch the boundaries of human understanding. Some of the images are simple and recognizable, depicting animals such as bears and birds, while others appear more abstract, spirals, concentric circles, and intersecting lines. The carvings are weathered, their sharp edges softened by centuries of exposure to the elements, yet they remain clear enough to evoke a sense of purpose and intention. These petroglyphs are not the only remnants of the Abenaki culture in the region. The Abenaki, a Native American people with deep historical roots in New England, have long been associated with the forests and rivers of this area. Their rich cultural traditions, including oral histories, spiritual beliefs, and practices, continue to shape the modern-day Abenaki communities. Yet, despite their enduring presence, much of the deeper spiritual and cultural significance of these rock art sites remains shrouded in mystery. The petroglyphs found at these sites were likely created over a long period of time, spanning hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Some researchers suggest that they may date as far back as 1000 BCE, while others place their creation closer to the arrival of Europeans in the 16th century. The question of their age is further complicated by the absence of definitive archaeological evidence, such as pottery or other datable artifacts, making it difficult to pinpoint a precise time frame for their creation. Regardless of their age, these carvings stand as a silent witness to the deep spirituality and cultural expression of the Abenaki people. As with many other ancient rock art sites, the true purpose of these petroglyphs is elusive. Some mainstream theories suggest that the carvings served as a form of communication, either between different groups of people or as a means of conveying spiritual or ceremonial messages. In many Native American traditions, rock art was a form of recording important events, hunting rituals, or spiritual visions. It is likely that the Abenaki used these petroglyphs to mark significant places, memorialize ancestors, or communicate with the spirit world. The location of these rock art sites is also significant. The petroglyphs are often found near bodies of water, rivers, lakes, and streams that were vital to the survival and spiritual life of the Abenaki people. Water held great symbolic importance in many Native American cultures, representing the flow of life, the cyclical nature of existence, and a connection to the spirit world. The placement of the petroglyphs near these natural features suggests that they may have been intended as markers of sacred spaces or as part of larger ceremonial sites. Yet, while the idea that the petroglyphs were used for ceremonial or spiritual purposes is widely accepted, the exact nature of these rituals remains unclear. The imagery carved into the stones, while suggestive of animals and natural elements, does not always fit neatly into the categories of known spiritual practices. Some figures are entirely abstract, spirals, curvilinear lines, and other geometric shapes that may have held symbolic meanings lost to time. Could these forms represent spiritual or cosmic principles, or were they connected to the rhythms of nature, such as the movement of the sun and the stars? Without a clearer understanding of Abenaki cosmology, it is difficult to say with certainty. As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Abenaki rock art, alternative theories begin to surface. While mainstream interpretations lean toward the idea of spiritual expression and ceremonial significance, some have suggested that these petroglyphs may have served a more practical or navigational purpose. Could the geometric patterns etched into the stone represent maps of the land? Or could they have been a way to mark paths through the dense forests and rivers of New England? The Abenaki people were skilled hunters and gatherers, and it's conceivable that the rock art sites could have been used as landmarks, guideposts marking important trails or locations. Even more intriguing are the fringe theories that question the origins of the carvings themselves. Some have speculated that the rock art sites could have been influenced by or even created by ancient peoples from outside the Americas. The idea of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact has long been a topic of debate, and while the evidence remains speculative, some researchers point to similarities between the Abenaki petroglyphs and those found in other ancient cultures across the world. From the spirals of Celtic rock art to the symbols found in the caves of southern Africa, there are some who suggest that these motifs are not purely indigenous, but represent a wider tradition of symbolism shared across distant lands. Could it be that the Abenaki, like other ancient peoples, were part of a larger network of cultures that exchanged ideas and symbols across the globe? It's a theory that stretches the boundaries of our current understanding of history, but it remains one of the many speculative interpretations surrounding these ancient carvings. While these theories are captivating, they often face skepticism from mainstream archaeologists, who argue that the Abenaki rock art is distinctly tied to the cultural and spiritual practices of indigenous peoples. The symbols, in their view, reflect the Abenaki's relationship with the land, the natural world, and the spirit world. The carvings, with their emphasis on animals and geometric patterns, may represent the Abenaki's understanding of the cycles of life and the interconnectedness of all living beings. The Abenaki people, like many Native American cultures, believed in a deep connection to the natural world, where every animal, plant, and rock was imbued with spiritual significance. In this light, the rock art becomes not just a form of communication, but a way of honoring the spiritual power of nature itself. However, the mystery of these petroglyphs lies not only in their meaning, but also in their preservation. Over the centuries, the rock art has been subjected to the ravages of time, weather, and human activity. Erosion from the elements has worn down some of the carvings, making them difficult to discern. Moreover, some petroglyph sites have been damaged or even vandalized, further obscuring the true meaning of the symbols. Yet, despite these challenges, many of the carvings remain intact, waiting to be studied and interpreted. What secrets do they still hold? What stories are they trying to tell? As we contemplate the significance of the Abenaki rock art sites, we are left with more questions than answers. What role did these petroglyphs play in the daily life and spiritual practices of the Abenaki people? Were they simply a form of artistic expression, or did they serve a deeper, more functional purpose in guiding people through the landscape? How much of their meaning has been lost, and how much can still be recovered through careful study and interpretation? The answers may never be fully known, but what is certain is that these rock art sites continue to be a powerful reminder of the deep spiritual and cultural connections that ancient peoples had with their environment. The Abenaki, like many indigenous cultures, saw the world not as a collection of disconnected objects, but as a living, interconnected system where every rock, tree, and animal had meaning. The petroglyphs carved into the stones of New Hampshire stand as a testament to this worldview, one that transcends time and continues to resonate today. And so, as we leave the mysterious rock art sites behind, we are left to wonder, what other secrets might be etched into the stones of this world, waiting to be uncovered? What ancient knowledge lies hidden in the carvings, waiting for us to rediscover? The mysteries of the Abenaki rock art sites may remain unsolved, but their presence, their power, and their mystery endure. Despite the challenges posed by weathering and vandalism, the Abenaki rock art sites continue to captivate us. These petroglyphs have withstood the test of time, offering a window into a world where every part of the environment was sacred and interconnected. Even as much of their meaning remains unclear, the sites stand as a testament to the Abenaki's ability to communicate with the land, the animals, and the spirit world. As we study these carvings, we are reminded that there is still much to uncover in the stories hidden within the landscape, secrets and wisdom waiting for the right interpretation. What might these ancient carvings still reveal about the people who created them, and what can we learn from them in our own time? As we shift our focus further west across the rolling landscapes of Illinois, we encounter one of the most perplexing and often overlooked archaeological mysteries of North America, the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula. Scattered across this expansive region, comprising the heart of the American Midwest, are earthen mounds, many of which have been lost to time, plowed over by modern agriculture, or buried under centuries of foliage. Yet these silent earthworks remain, deeply embedded in the soil like ancient memories, and the questions they raise continue to echo across the centuries. The mounds themselves vary greatly in size and shape. Some are massive burial mounds, towering over the landscape, while others are more subtle, small mounds that can easily be overlooked by the untrained eye. These earthen formations are not simply piles of dirt. They are carefully constructed structures, often with great precision and intentionality. Some rise as high as 30 feet, while others stretch out in long, serpentine lines, as if drawn by the hand of a giant. What's even more intriguing is that the mounds are often found in clusters, groups of them, arranged in patterns that suggest a deliberate design. Were they built as burial sites, as markers of important places, or as part of a larger cosmological system? The mounds of the Prairie Peninsula are primarily associated with the ancient cultures of the Mississippian people, who inhabited this region between 1000 BC and 1500 AD. The Mississippians, known for their complex social structure, agricultural advancements, and extensive trade networks, constructed these earthen monuments over several centuries. The largest of these mounds are concentrated around present-day Cahokia, a UNESCO World Heritage Site located near the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Cahokia itself was once a thriving city. At its height, it is estimated that the population reached over 20,000 people, making it one of the largest urban centers in pre-Columbian North America. At first glance, it might seem that these mounds are merely burial sites, places where the dead were laid to rest along with their possessions. And in many cases, this is indeed what they were. Archaeological excavations have uncovered thousands of human remains, along with a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, tools, and ceremonial items, buried alongside the deceased. The mounds, with their reverence for the dead, suggest a deeply spiritual connection between the people and the earth. However, as with many ancient burial sites, the full extent of their meaning is far more complex and difficult to decipher. One of the most curious aspects of the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula is their design. Some of the mounds appear to have been constructed with astronomical alignment in mind. For example, certain mounds align with the solstices, marking the turning points of the year, while others seem to correspond with the movements of the moon or specific stars. Could it be that these mounds served as astronomical observatories, used by the ancient Mississippians to track celestial events and create calendars? The idea that the mounds were used to track the stars and the seasons is supported by the patterns that can be observed in their arrangement, but definitive evidence remains scarce. And yet, the very idea that the ancient peoples of the Prairie Peninsula might have been using these mounds to map the heavens presents a fascinating possibility. Equally intriguing are the more enigmatic mounds, those whose purpose remains unclear. Some of these smaller mounds do not contain any human remains, and the artifacts found within them are minimal. This has led some researchers to propose that these mounds might have served a more symbolic purpose, perhaps representing sacred or ceremonial spaces, markers of land ownership, or geographic boundaries. Others have suggested that they could be the remnants of once large structures, perhaps temples or gathering places, now eroded or lost to time. Despite decades of research, much about the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula remains speculative. While the mainstream view holds that they were built primarily for ceremonial and religious purposes, there are more radical theories about their origins and purpose. Some researchers have suggested that the mounds might have been constructed by a people who were not part of the Mississippian culture at all, but by a much older and possibly more advanced civilization whose existence has been erased from the historical record. Could these mounds represent the work of a forgotten culture, one whose knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and the natural world was far ahead of its time? One fringe theory even posits that the mounds were not constructed by indigenous peoples at all, but were instead the result of ancient cultures from other parts of the world. This theory points to similarities between the mounds and structures found in Europe and the Middle East, suggesting that there could have been long-distance contact between these regions in ancient times. While there is little evidence to support this idea, it nonetheless raises interesting questions about the potential for cross-cultural exchange long before the arrival of Europeans in the Americas. Another compelling line of thought revolves around the possibility that the mounds were part of a larger global network of sacred sites. Some researchers speculate that the Prairie Peninsula mounds, along with similar earthworks found in other parts of North America, might have been linked by an ancient knowledge system that spanned across the continent. Could these mounds have been connected by ritualistic pathways, marking important locations for religious or ceremonial gatherings? The idea that the mounds were once part of a broader cultural landscape, with sacred sites spread across the continent, is an intriguing one, though definitive evidence remains elusive. Yet, despite the speculative theories, there is also a more grounded interpretation that highlights the deep connection between the Mississippian people and the land itself. For the indigenous peoples of the Prairie Peninsula, the mounds may have served as a reflection of their worldview, a way to honor the earth and their ancestors. The idea that these mounds were constructed with a deep understanding of the natural world, of cycles, seasons, and celestial events, remains compelling. The alignment of certain mounds with the solstices, for example, may not simply have been a practical matter of tracking time, but a spiritual endeavor, an effort to harmonize with the rhythms of the cosmos. In the end, the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula remain a powerful reminder of the complexity of ancient societies. The Mississippian people, with their intricate social structures, advanced agricultural techniques, and spiritual traditions, were far more than the sum of their earthen mounds. These mounds, while physical markers of the past, represent the intangible ideas of time, spirituality, and connection to the natural world. They are, in many ways, a form of cultural language, a way for the ancient peoples of this land to communicate across time with those who would come after them. Yet, the questions that surround these mounds, what they truly symbolize, who built them, and why they were created, remain unanswered. As we stand before these earthen monuments, we are left to wonder, what knowledge was embedded in the construction of these mounds? What were the people of the Prairie Peninsula trying to communicate through their careful arrangement of earth and stone? Was this landscape once a thriving center of spiritual and social activity, now lost to history? Or, perhaps, do these mounds continue to carry secrets that remain hidden, waiting to be discovered by those who have the patience and insight to decipher them? The mystery of the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula endures, its stories written in the earth, its meaning still not fully understood. And as we look to the future, we must ask, what else might be hidden beneath the surface of this land, waiting to reveal itself in time? As we continue to study the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula, it becomes clear that these ancient earthworks are more than mere artifacts of a bygone era. They are symbols of a culture that valued the connection between the terrestrial and celestial realms. The alignment of many of these mounds with solar and lunar cycles suggests that the people of the Prairie Peninsula were not only keen observers of the natural world, but also deeply spiritual, seeking to integrate their understanding of the cosmos into their everyday lives. Whether for ceremonial purposes, as markers of sacred space, or as tools for tracking the seasons, These mounds embody the sophisticated worldview of the Mississippian people, a worldview that connected the heavens, the earth, and the people in a complex web of relationships. While much of the purpose behind the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula remains speculative, one thing is certain: they reflect the remarkable ingenuity and cultural depth of the Mississippian people. Their ability to construct such monumental earthworks, often in precise alignment with celestial events, speaks to an understanding of architecture, astronomy, and community that was ahead of its time. Even if we are unable to fully decode the meaning of these mounds, we are left with a powerful reminder of the importance of place, spirituality, and the passing of knowledge through generations. The mounds are not merely relics, they are stories in the soil waiting to be heard. In addition to their spiritual and astronomical significance, the mounds may also have been a form of social organization, marking boundaries or serving as meeting places for tribal leaders or other important figures. The careful arrangement of these mounds, often found in clusters, hints at a sophisticated sense of communal life, one that was intricately tied to the land and its resources. These earthworks could have served multiple functions, both as ritual spaces and as markers of political or territorial significance, making them an even more integral part of the Mississippian worldview. Ultimately, the mounds of the Prairie Peninsula remain a powerful symbol of the resilience and sophistication of indigenous cultures in North America. Though much of their purpose remains a mystery, they continue to inspire awe and wonder, encouraging us to question what we know about ancient societies and how we understand the legacy they have left behind. As we explore these sacred mounds, we are invited not just to study the past, but to reflect on how we relate to the land and the cosmos in our own time, and to remember the deep cultural knowledge embedded in these earthworks. What other stories are hidden in the earth, waiting for us to uncover them? And what might these mysteries still reveal about the lives of those who once called this land home? As we continue our exploration of ancient mysteries, we journey northward to the sweeping plains of Alberta, Canada, where the remnants of a deeply mysterious and enigmatic tradition can still be found, hidden among the rugged landscapes of the Blackfoot Confederacy. Here, scattered across the land, are stone enclosures, mysterious geometric formations built from large weathered stones. These structures, sometimes referred to as sacred enclosures or medicine wheels, are thought to have played a significant role in the spiritual and cultural practices of the Blackfoot people. Yet, their exact purpose, their meaning, and their construction remain a profound puzzle to archaeologists and historians alike. At first glance, these enclosures may appear to be nothing more than stone circles, large, round formations composed of carefully arranged rocks, often spanning several meters in diameter. But as one examines them more closely, the subtle details begin to emerge. Some of the enclosures are composed of concentric circles, with each ring made of carefully placed stones. Others are more irregular in shape, their stone arrangements following paths that seem to echo the natural contours of the land itself. Some of these stone structures are connected by long, narrow lines of stones, which radiate outward from the central circle, forming complex geometric patterns that suggest an intentional design. The precision with which these stones were arranged is remarkable. These are not random piles of rock, but deliberate, purposeful constructions. The Blackfoot Confederacy, historically made up of several indigenous nations, each with its own distinct traditions and languages, has long been associated with these stone enclosures. The Blackfoot people have lived on the plains of southern Alberta and northern Montana for centuries, and their deep connection to the land is reflected in their spiritual beliefs and cultural practices. Many of the enclosures are thought to have been built by the Blackfoot and their ancestors as part of their ceremonial and ritualistic life. These stone structures are often found in areas of great spiritual significance, places near water, on hilltops, or at key intersections of important natural features. Some enclosures are located along migratory routes or near seasonal gathering sites, suggesting that they may have been used for both practical and spiritual purposes. The mainstream theory is that these stone enclosures were used for ceremonial or religious purposes, tied to the Blackfoot people's animistic worldview, which saw spiritual significance in all aspects of the natural world. The enclosures may have been used as gathering places for important rituals, such as vision quests or prayers to the spirits of animals, the earth, and the elements. The circular nature of many of the enclosures suggests a connection to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, key concepts in many indigenous cosmologies. In Blackfoot culture, the circle is a symbol of wholeness, unity, and the interconnectedness of all things, and it is possible that these enclosures served as physical representations of these spiritual beliefs. In addition to their possible ceremonial functions, some researchers have suggested that the enclosures may have been used as hunting tools. The Blackfoot, like many indigenous groups, were highly skilled hunters who relied on the movement and migration patterns of animals, particularly bison, for their survival. Some of the stone enclosures appear to be designed in such a way that they could have been used as traps to herd bison or other game animals into specific areas, where they could be more easily hunted. The long, straight lines of stones that radiate from the central enclosures might have acted as fences or barriers, guiding the animals into confined spaces or corrals. This theory fits with the historical practice of using natural features, such as canyons or river bends, to trap herds of bison, making it possible to take down larger numbers of animals at once. Yet the true purpose of these stone enclosures remains a matter of debate, and other, more speculative theories continue to emerge. One such theory suggests that the enclosures may have been used as astronomical observatories, structures that were aligned with the stars, the sun, or the moon. The Blackfoot people, like many indigenous cultures, had a deep understanding of celestial events, including the movements of the stars and the cycles of the sun. Some of the stone enclosures, particularly those with radial stone lines, could have been used to mark important astronomical events, such as solstices, equinoxes, or eclipses. The alignment of certain enclosures with these celestial events would have had significant cultural and religious implications, and it is not difficult to imagine these structures being used to track time, seasons, and the cycles of the natural world. Could these stone circles have served as tools for predicting celestial events, marking the passage of time, or even guiding the Blackfoot people in their seasonal migrations? In a similar vein, some have speculated that these enclosures may have had a role in guiding or influencing the spiritual journeys of individuals. In Blackfoot tradition, rituals such as vision quests were central to an individual's spiritual development. These quests, undertaken by young men and women, involved seeking solitude in nature and fasting in order to receive a vision or message from the spirit world. Could it be that the stone enclosures were used as sacred places where these journeys began, or were they intended to provide a spiritual connection to the land and the ancestors? Some researchers have even suggested that the enclosures could be connected to the Blackfoot people's beliefs in sacred geography, the idea that certain places on the earth are imbued with special spiritual power, and that these places can serve as gateways to other realms or dimensions. As with many ancient sites, fringe theories about the Blackfoot Confederacy stone enclosures have also emerged, sparking debate and controversy. One particularly intriguing theory suggests that the enclosures were not built by the Blackfoot people at all, but by an ancient, forgotten civilization with advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy. This theory proposes that the enclosures represent a form of lost knowledge, passed down from an earlier, more technologically advanced culture. While there is little evidence to support such a claim, the idea that these stone enclosures may have been influenced by or part of a broader, ancient tradition is a tantalizing one. Could there have been other cultures in North America, predating the Blackfoot, who left behind these cryptic markers? Or were the Blackfoot people the true creators, with their knowledge of the land, the stars, and the spiritual world informing the design of these stone circles. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Blackfoot Confederacy stone enclosures is that they remain largely unstudied and underexplored. Much of the land on which these enclosures sit is remote, and access to many of the sites is difficult or restricted. As a result, much of their significance remains lost to time. While some of the enclosures have been studied, and their association with Blackfoot culture has been well established, there is still much that we do not know about their true purpose or their origins. What secrets might still be hidden beneath the stones, waiting to be uncovered by future generations of archaeologists and researchers? What role do these stone enclosures play in the larger story of indigenous cultures in North America? As we look toward the future, we are left with more questions than answers. The stone enclosures of the Blackfoot Confederacy, like many other ancient sites, hold their secrets close. They remain as cryptic as the land itself, silent witnesses to a time and a people whose stories have been obscured by centuries of change. The enclosures speak to a culture that understood the land and the stars in ways that we are only beginning to understand. They offer a glimpse into a world that existed long before the arrival of Europeans, and they invite us to wonder, what other mysteries might lie hidden in the earth, waiting to be discovered? As we continue our journey through North America, we turn our attention eastward, toward the dense forests and expansive wetlands of Ontario, Canada. Nestled within these vast landscapes lies a series of enigmatic prehistoric earthworks, remnants of a long-lost civilization whose story remains largely untold. These earthworks, scattered across the province, are a fascinating and puzzling testament to the ingenuity of a people whose identity and purpose remain shrouded in mystery. The Ontario prehistoric earthworks are an intricate network of raised embankments, circular ditches, and complex geometric patterns. From the air, these formations reveal an almost otherworldly landscape, with rows of earth mounds and curving ditches etched into the forested terrain. Some of these earthworks form expansive circles, while others align in long, straight lines or serpentine shapes. Though they vary in size and complexity, many of these earthworks are remarkably similar to those found in other parts of North America, particularly the ceremonial mounds and geoglyphs created by indigenous peoples. Yet, despite their prominence, the true purpose of these earthworks remains elusive. Most archaeologists and historians agree that these earthworks were created by ancient peoples who inhabited the region long before the arrival of European settlers. Evidence suggests that these earthworks were built around 1,000 to 2,000 years ago, possibly by the ancestors of the indigenous peoples who still inhabit Ontario today. The exact identity of the people who constructed these earthworks remains a topic of debate. Some scholars suggest that they were built by early agricultural societies, while others propose that they were created by nomadic peoples with a deep understanding of the land and the natural world. The most well-known of the Ontario prehistoric earthworks are the large, circular embankments that are believed to have served as ceremonial or ritualistic sites. These circular enclosures, often found near rivers, lakes, or other natural landmarks, may have had significant spiritual or religious meaning. In many indigenous cultures, the circle is a powerful symbol of unity, balance, and interconnectedness, and it is possible that these earthworks were designed to embody these concepts. Some researchers speculate that the circular earthworks were used for sacred ceremonies, serving as gathering places for spiritual rituals or community events. The precise alignment of some of these earthworks with the solstices and lunar cycles further supports the idea that they may have had an astronomical function, marking important points in the yearly calendar. Despite the compelling evidence that the earthworks had spiritual or ceremonial significance, the broader context of these sites remains unclear. Were these earthworks purely symbolic, or did they also serve more practical purposes? Some researchers have suggested that the earthworks may have been used for social or political gatherings, functioning as meeting places for tribal leaders or other influential figures. Could these sites have been used to mark territorial boundaries or to signal alliances between different groups? The fact that many of these earthworks are found near water, an essential resource for survival, suggests that they may have been central to the lives of the people who created them, providing both spiritual and practical value. The mystery deepens when we consider the remarkable size and scale of some of the Ontario earthworks. Some of these formations span hundreds of feet in diameter, requiring immense amounts of labor and resources to construct. How did the ancient peoples of Ontario manage to create such monumental structures without the aid of modern tools or machinery? The sheer scale of the earthworks suggests a level of organization and social complexity that raises important questions about the people who built them. Were they part of a highly structured society, or did they represent the efforts of smaller, more loosely organized groups? And how did these societies, with their limited technology, manage to plan and execute such grand projects? In addition to the large circular embankments, there are also more cryptic earthworks in Ontario, linear and geometric shapes that are not immediately understood. Some of these formations resemble serpent-like shapes, with winding, curving lines that seem to mimic the natural contours of the land. Other earthworks appear to have been designed to align with certain natural features, such as hills, rivers, or rock formations. These earthworks have sparked speculation that they might have served as a type of map, guiding travelers through the landscape or marking important sites. Some fringe theories suggest that these earthworks may have been built to communicate with or commemorate the natural world in a way that transcends traditional cultural boundaries. One particularly fascinating theory is that the Ontario prehistoric earthworks are related to a lost, ancient knowledge system, one that spanned across the continent, uniting various groups with a shared understanding of astronomy, geography, and spirituality. Some researchers have pointed to similarities between the Ontario earthworks and other ancient sites in North America, such as the Mounds of the Midwest and the medicine wheels of the Great Plains. Could these earthworks have been part of a larger, continent-wide network of sacred sites created by different groups with a shared cultural framework? The idea that ancient peoples across North America may have been connected by a common knowledge system is compelling, but the evidence remains speculative, with no definitive links between the Ontario earthworks and other ancient sites. There are also more radical theories surrounding the Ontario prehistoric earthworks, ideas that suggest these earthworks may have been built by an entirely different civilization altogether. Some fringe theorists propose that the earthworks are the remnants of an ancient culture that predates known indigenous peoples, possibly a lost civilization with advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy. This theory, though controversial, has found some support among those who point to the precision of the earthworks and their alignment with celestial events. Could the creators of these earthworks have been guided by a knowledge system far more advanced than what we have traditionally ascribed to ancient peoples? Or is it more likely that these earthworks were the product of a sophisticated but ultimately local indigenous culture with a deep understanding of the natural world? Despite the many theories, the Ontario prehistoric earthworks remain a tantalizing mystery. While we can draw some conclusions based on their design, their location, and the patterns they form, the true purpose and meaning of these structures continue to elude us. What were the creators of these earthworks trying to communicate? Were they marking sacred spaces, aligning with the stars, or forming a map of the landscape? And how were they constructed, given the limitations of ancient technology? As we stand on the edge of the forests of Ontario, looking out across the remnants of these ancient earthworks, we are reminded that there is so much still to discover, so much hidden beneath the surface, both literally and metaphorically. The enigma of the Ontario prehistoric earthworks is not merely a question of archaeology. It is a window into the past, a glimpse into the lives of people whose stories have been forgotten by time. In the end, the mystery remains unsolved, and we are left to ponder. What knowledge did these earthworks represent? And how did they shape the lives of those who built them? What might still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered, within the forested landscapes of Ontario? As we continue to reflect on the mystery of the Ontario prehistoric earthworks, we are reminded that the very nature of ancient knowledge often resists easy explanation. These earthworks are more than just physical structures. They are symbols, each one a fragment of a larger, elusive story. Despite the passage of centuries, these enigmatic formations continue to stir curiosity, prompting us to ask questions that have yet to be answered. Were they designed as tools of communication, creating a language of lines and shapes that transcends the spoken word? Or were they intended to foster a deeper connection with the earth, a manifestation of the belief that the land itself is imbued with spiritual power? The mystery of these earthworks also challenges our modern understanding of ancient peoples and their capabilities. The sheer effort and precision involved in their construction speaks to an advanced level of organization, social cohesion, and shared knowledge. Could it be that these ancient communities were not simply isolated groups, but rather participants in a larger, continent-wide exchange of ideas? The more we learn about these structures, the more we recognize that the past may have been far more interconnected and sophisticated than we once believed. Moreover, as we venture deeper into the woods of Ontario, it's essential to acknowledge the enduring legacy of the Indigenous peoples who lived in this region long before European settlers arrived. Many of the earthworks we encounter may be connected to cultures that have survived through oral traditions and deep spiritual connections to the land. The stories of these cultures, often told through ceremonies, songs, and stories passed down through generations, may still hold the key to unlocking the full meaning of the earthworks. As we engage with these mysteries, we must remember to honor the knowledge of the Indigenous peoples who have long been the stewards of this land. In the end, the Ontario prehistoric earthworks remain not just an archaeological puzzle, but an invitation to look deeper into the natural world and the lives of those who lived in harmony with it. Perhaps, in seeking answers to these ancient mysteries, we can gain a greater understanding of the cultural, spiritual, and astronomical wisdom that shaped these early societies. And as we continue to explore the hidden landscapes of Ontario, we are reminded that some mysteries are meant to linger, challenging us to broaden our perspectives and deepen our connection to the past. As we transition from the serene and enigmatic earthworks of Ontario, we now find ourselves in the rugged deserts of New Mexico, USA, a land that holds one of the most fascinating and yet unresolved archaeological mysteries of ancient North America. Welcome to Chaco Canyon. Nestled in the high desert landscape of northwestern New Mexico, Chaco Canyon is an awe-inspiring sight, a place where the echoes of a forgotten civilization still resonate through the stone and dust. The canyon is a labyrinth of ancient ruins, vast multi-story structures, and a series of remarkable ceremonial and astronomical alignments that speak to an advanced culture, one that has since vanished from history. The canyon's distinctive ruins, with their towering stone walls and complex layouts, seem almost out of place against the stark desert backdrop. At first glance, it appears as though the stone buildings and ceremonial kivas, or underground chambers, were constructed to stand as monuments to some ancient, powerful society, one whose reach extended across vast stretches of the American Southwest. Chaco Canyon was once the center of the Chacoan civilization, an ancient group of people who lived in this remote desert area between the 9th and 12th centuries A.D. The ruins that remain are a testament to their ingenuity, their knowledge of the landscape, and their deep spiritual connection to the stars and natural world. But for all that we know about the Chacoans, the true extent of their culture, their technology, and the reasons for their sudden disappearance remain shrouded in mystery. The canyon is home to some of the most impressive examples of prehistoric architecture in North America. The ruins include the remains of large, multi-story buildings known as great houses, which were constructed using sandstone blocks. These structures were not just homes. They were sprawling complexes, some of which were 5 or more stories tall. The largest, such as Pueblo Bonito, contained hundreds of rooms and were likely inhabited by hundreds of people at a time. These great houses, with their highly sophisticated layout, are a striking contrast to the relatively simple dwellings of other contemporary Native American groups. The precision with which the Chacoans constructed these buildings raises immediate questions. How did they achieve such complexity with the tools available to them? What kind of social organization and labor force would have been necessary to construct these grand structures? But it's not just the architecture that makes Chaco Canyon a place of mystery. It's the way the Chacoans seem to have organized their entire civilization around specific astronomical events. The alignment of many of the great houses, roads, and even the kivas suggests that the Chacoans had an advanced understanding of the cosmos. Certain structures are precisely aligned with the solstices, lunar cycles, and other celestial events. At the site of Casa Rinconada, for example, the central kiva appears to align with the sun's position during the winter solstice, casting a light that illuminates the sacred space in a specific, purposeful way. The placement of roads, which radiate out from the canyon like spokes on a wheel, further complicates the picture. Some of these roads stretch for dozens of miles and seem to connect Chaco Canyon to distant settlements, indicating that the people of Chaco may have had a far-reaching influence in the region, perhaps even as far as what is now Arizona, Colorado, and Utah. Yet, despite the extraordinary skill and knowledge evident in the design of these buildings and roads, the question remains: why? What was the true purpose of this complex society? Was Chaco Canyon a religious center, an astronomical observatory, a political hub, or perhaps a combination of all these things? Archaeologists have long speculated about the role of Chaco Canyon as a place for religious and ceremonial activities. The kivas, the circular subterranean structures scattered throughout the canyon, are thought to have been used for rituals, spiritual ceremonies, and communal gatherings. Some researchers propose that the Chacoans may have used these spaces for initiation rites, divination, or communication with the gods. The alignment of the great houses with celestial events supports this theory, suggesting that the Chacoans may have viewed the cosmos as a sacred realm, with the sun, moon, and stars playing central roles in their religious beliefs. But if Chaco Canyon was a place of religious or astronomical significance, why was it so large and so intricately designed? And why, after flourishing for several centuries, did the Chacoan civilization abruptly decline in the 12th century? Evidence suggests that by the late 1100s, Chaco Canyon was largely abandoned, with many of the great houses left to crumble. The reasons for this decline remain unclear, though several theories abound. Some suggest that environmental factors, such as a prolonged drought or the depletion of resources, may have contributed to the collapse of the Chacoan society. Others propose that social upheaval, political instability, or external conflict with neighboring groups may have led to the city's fall. What seems certain, however, is that the once thriving center of Chaco Canyon was deserted, and its people scattered, leaving behind little trace of their once great civilization. Among the most perplexing aspects of Chaco Canyon is the mystery surrounding the construction of the great houses and the roads. The Chacoans did not use wheels or draft animals, so how did they transport the enormous stones required to build these structures, some of which weigh over a ton? Furthermore, how did they build such complex multi-story buildings in an area where the environment was harsh and resources scarce? The construction techniques used by the Chacoans remain a topic of intense study and speculation. Some believe that the Chacoans used a combination of ropes, human labor, and simple tools to transport the stones, while others suggest that the construction may have involved a more sophisticated system of scaffolding, pulleys, or ramps. How much of this ancient engineering knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, and what can we learn from their techniques today? Adding to the mystery is the network of roads that radiate out from Chaco Canyon, connecting it to other sites across the region. These roads, some of which are more than 30 feet wide and stretch for miles, are perfectly straight, an astonishing feat given the rugged terrain they traverse. Some researchers speculate that these roads may have served not only as physical pathways, but also as symbolic ones, guiding travelers on a spiritual journey. Did these roads function as ritualistic pathways, leading pilgrims to Chaco Canyon for sacred ceremonies? Or were they practical, facilitating trade and communication between distant groups? The presence of similar structures and ceremonial sites along these roads has led some to believe that Chaco Canyon was part of a broader, region-wide network of sacred sites, a place that held immense cultural and religious significance. In recent years, fringe theories about Chaco Canyon have gained traction. Some have proposed that the Chacoans may have been influenced by, or even had contact with, ancient civilizations from across the globe. Some theories suggest that the Chacoans had knowledge of advanced astronomical techniques, perhaps even influenced by distant cultures such as the Maya or ancient Egyptians. These theories, though speculative and often dismissed by mainstream scholars, continue to captivate the imagination of those seeking to explain the extraordinary achievements of the Chacoans. Could the Chacoans have been part of a lost civilization with advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and mathematics? Or were they simply an isolated group of people who achieved remarkable feats on their own? As we stand amidst the ruins of Chaco Canyon, we are confronted with more questions than answers. The true purpose of this enigmatic site, its cultural significance, and the reasons for its eventual abandonment remain mysteries that have yet to be fully unraveled. What knowledge did the Chacoans possess, and how did they come to harness the natural world and the cosmos in such a profound way? Could there be more hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what lessons might the rise and fall of Chaco Canyon offer to us today, as we continue our search for understanding in a world that seems as mysterious and complex as the ancient stone ruins themselves? As we conclude our exploration of Chaco Canyon, we leave with these questions, unresolved and ever-present. The canyon itself remains silent, its walls holding secrets that time has not yet revealed. The stones, still standing strong after centuries of exposure to the elements, hold the answers, but they are locked away in the vast desert landscape, awaiting the next generation of explorers, researchers, and dreamers to uncover them. What other mysteries might Chaco Canyon still have to offer? Only time will tell. As we move from the sun-scorched deserts of New Mexico to the vast, frigid waters of Hudson Bay, we find ourselves confronted with yet another mystery, this time one that has eluded researchers for centuries. Far removed from the cultural centers of the ancient world, in the far northern reaches of Canada, lie the stone fort ruins at Hudson Bay. This remote site, tucked away within the sprawling wilderness of Manitoba, raises as many questions as it answers, and to this day, scholars and explorers alike remain captivated by its secrets. The ruins themselves, stark against the wild, untamed landscape, seem almost out of place. Stone walls, carefully constructed, stretch across the earth like the remnants of an ancient stronghold or a fortification designed to withstand the tests of time. These ruins, however, are not part of any known indigenous settlement or European colonial outpost. Instead, they are something far older, and perhaps far more mysterious. The stone fort ruins at Hudson Bay consist of a series of stone walls, some several meters high, and large rectangular enclosures that seem to be part of a larger defensive structure. The walls are composed of thick stones, meticulously arranged with precision, suggesting that the builders had a high degree of engineering expertise. The purpose of these walls and enclosures, however, remains unclear. Was this a fort, built to protect against external threats? Or was it something else entirely, a ceremonial site perhaps, or a structure designed for a different, as yet undetermined purpose? The site is located in a region rich in natural resources, forests, rivers, and the bountiful waters of Hudson Bay. It was once a thriving hub for indigenous peoples who lived off the land and developed sophisticated networks for trade, communication, and spiritual practice. And yet, the stone structures at Hudson Bay bear no resemblance to the more familiar structures of the local indigenous cultures. There is no direct historical or archaeological link between the site and any known indigenous group from the region, which adds to the enigma. The first recorded encounter with the stone fort ruins occurred during the early 19th century, when explorers from the Hudson's Bay Company, as part of their fur trading expeditions, stumbled upon the site. At the time, they were unaware of its true origins and speculated that it might have been a fort built during the fur trade era, an explanation that, at first, seemed plausible given the strategic location of the ruins and the ongoing colonial activity in the region. Yet, as further study was conducted, it became apparent that the stone fort was far older than any European presence in the area. Radiocarbon dating, along with stratigraphic analysis, revealed that the stone walls were constructed at least 1,000 years ago, long before the arrival of European settlers. In fact, no historical record exists to explain who built these walls, when they were built, or why they were abandoned. The style of construction, the materials used, and the sheer scale of the ruins point to a civilization with a knowledge of engineering that would be advanced for its time, yet we find no evidence of such a society in the area. Were the builders ancient peoples whose legacy was lost to time? Or were they part of a civilization whose history is still buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? One theory that has been proposed is that the stone fort ruins could have been built by a pre-Columbian group that used the area as a strategic stronghold. Some believe that these builders were part of a larger, forgotten culture that lived in North America long before the rise of known indigenous groups. These mysterious builders might have constructed the stone walls as part of an effort to defend themselves from other groups, or as a way to create a permanent settlement in the wilderness. The wall's size and their strategic location suggest that they were intended for some form of defense, but defense against whom or what? There are no indications that the indigenous peoples who later inhabited the region practiced any form of large-scale warfare, which raises further questions about the purpose of the fortifications. But the mystery deepens when we consider the possibility that the stone fort ruins might have had a different function altogether. Some have suggested that the site was not a fort at all, but a ceremonial or spiritual site, built with great care to align with certain celestial or natural forces. Like the ceremonial mounds and earthworks we have encountered throughout North America, these stone walls might have been constructed to honor the natural world or to mark a sacred space. Could the builders of the stone fort have been creating a site that was intended for ritualistic purposes rather than defensive ones? The arrangement of the walls and the way they appear to follow certain natural features, such as the nearby river, suggests a possible symbolic connection to the land itself. In this case, the stone structures may have been designed to harmonize with the surrounding environment, serving as a focal point for ceremonies or spiritual gatherings. Yet another theory proposes that the stone fort ruins may have been part of an ancient, long-forgotten trade network. Hudson Bay, with its vast resources, would have been a natural meeting point for various groups, and the stone walls might have served as a place of commerce or exchange. The precision of the construction, along with the evidence of what could have been roads or trade routes leading to the site, adds weight to this hypothesis. The stone walls could have acted as a protective boundary for traders, shielding them from potential threats while they conducted business. The mystery lies in the fact that, unlike the well-documented trade routes established by later indigenous peoples, no clear evidence exists of such a system involving the stone fort. Adding to the intrigue, some have speculated that the site could be tied to a much larger, more ancient civilization, one whose reach extended far beyond the borders of the modern world. There are those who propose that the builders of the stone fort ruins were part of a global network of civilizations, connected by shared knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and engineering. These theories, often dismissed by mainstream archaeologists, suggest that ancient peoples from across the world may have communicated with each other long before recorded history. The similarities between the stone fort ruins and other ancient sites, such as those found in Europe or Asia, fuel these speculative ideas. Could there have been ancient travelers who crossed vast distances, bringing with them knowledge that was passed down through generations? Despite the many theories, there is no consensus on the origin, purpose, or significance of the stone fort ruins. What we know for certain is that this remote site holds the key to a mystery that continues to elude understanding. The stone walls, standing resilient against the elements, offer no clear answers, and each theory, whether it speaks of defense, ritual, trade, or something more cosmic, adds another layer to the enigma. As we stand before the ruins, contemplating the silence of the site and the questions it raises, we are reminded of the many forgotten cultures that have left their mark on the world. The stone fort ruins at Hudson Bay may one day reveal their secrets to those who continue to search for answers, but for now, they remain a testament to the mystery of the ancient world, an enduring puzzle in the heart of the wilderness. What ancient knowledge or purpose might have driven the builders of the stone fort ruins? What hidden stories lie buried beneath the stones? And might this site, like so many others across the world, be part of a greater story that humanity has yet to fully uncover? The answers are still out there, waiting to be discovered. As we leave the mysterious stone fort ruins behind, we venture into another region of great archaeological intrigue, where the landscape itself seems to hold the secrets of an ancient people, secrets that, despite centuries of study, remain elusive. Welcome to the Four Corners region of the United States, a land where the boundaries of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Utah converge. It is here, amidst the vast, arid deserts and the high, rocky cliffs, that we encounter the remarkable legacy of the ancestral Puebloans. The Four Corners is a place of stark beauty, an expansive, red-streaked desert dotted with mesas, buttes, and the jagged remnants of ancient volcanic activity. The land stretches endlessly beneath a sky so clear and vast that it feels as if time itself is suspended. But beneath this timeless landscape, hidden within the stone, is a history that continues to mystify archaeologists, historians, and anthropologists alike. The ancestral Puebloans, also known as the Anasazi, once thrived in this unforgiving terrain, leaving behind a legacy that speaks to their ingenuity, their understanding of the natural world, and their spiritual connection to the land. The ruins of their once great cities are scattered throughout the Four Corners region, most notably at places like Mesa Verde in Colorado, Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, and Canyon de Chelly in Arizona. These ancient sites, with their elaborate stone dwellings and towering cliffside complexes, are a testament to the extraordinary achievements of the ancestral Puebloans. In some ways, the remnants of their civilization stand as proof of human resilience in the face of a harsh environment. Yet, despite the monumental scale of their achievements, the mysteries surrounding the ancestral Puebloans remain unsolved. Who were these people, and why did they leave such an indelible mark on the landscape, only to seemingly disappear without a trace? The most striking feature of ancestral Puebloan architecture is their cliff dwellings. These homes, often built into the sides of towering cliffs, were constructed with remarkable precision. The stone structures, made of sandstone blocks and mortar, blend seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Some of these dwellings contain hundreds of rooms, interconnected by narrow passageways and steep staircases, offering a glimpse into the complexity of their social structure. The skill with which these structures were built, using only primitive tools, speaks to the ingenuity of the ancestral Puebloans. But how did they manage to construct such intricate, high-altitude homes without the aid of modern technology? The cliff dwellings themselves provide only part of the mystery. The layout of the villages with their kivas, circular subterranean chambers, suggests a deep spiritual or ceremonial significance. Kivas were often used for communal gatherings, rituals, and ceremonies, perhaps to honor the gods or mark important celestial events. Many of the ancestral Puebloans' buildings are aligned with the sun, moon, and stars, pointing to an advanced understanding of astronomy and the natural world. Did the placement of these buildings reflect a profound connection to the cosmos, or were they designed to align with specific astronomical phenomena, such as the solstices or lunar cycles? One of the most well-known sites of the ancestral Puebloans is Mesa Verde, located in Colorado. Here, the remains of cliff dwellings and large multi-room structures can still be seen, some of which are perched high above the valley floor. These cliff dwellings, like those found in Chaco Canyon, suggest that the ancestral Puebloans may have had an intricate knowledge of both the landscape and their environment. The sheer scale of the construction, with many of the dwellings built into the sides of cliffs that rise hundreds of feet above the ground, raises questions about how these early people were able to build such structures in such difficult conditions. The remains of these great houses, with their detailed architecture, offer clues about the culture and society of the ancestral Puebloans. It is believed that these structures were used for both domestic and ceremonial purposes, with the upper levels reserved for living quarters and the lower levels for storage and communal activities. The kivas, often located in the center of the complexes, were likely used for rituals and spiritual practices, further reinforcing the idea that the ancestral Puebloans had a deeply spiritual relationship with their environment. But the purpose of these structures is still not entirely understood. Were they solely for habitation, or did they have a larger role in the social and religious life of the community? Despite the impressive engineering feats and the advanced knowledge demonstrated in their architecture, the ancestral Puebloans' culture has left behind no written records. Everything we know about their society comes from their physical remains, their buildings, pottery, tools, and rock art. Yet, as we examine these artifacts, we begin to wonder, how much of their story remains hidden? What knowledge did they possess, and how did they use it to thrive in such an unforgiving environment? In addition to their remarkable architecture, the ancestral Puebloans were skilled farmers, cultivating corn, beans, squash, and other crops in a landscape where water was often scarce. Their ability to adapt to this harsh environment, creating irrigation systems and terraced fields, is a testament to their ingenuity. The methods they used to capture and conserve water, channeling it through channels carved into the rock and clay, allowed them to sustain large communities in an otherwise arid region. Yet, despite these advances in agriculture, there is still much we don't understand about how the ancestral Puebloans managed to survive over such long periods. But even more perplexing than their ability to adapt to the environment is the sudden and mysterious disappearance of the ancestral Puebloans. By the late 12th century, many of the great cliff dwellings and cities had been abandoned. The reasons for this abrupt exodus are the subject of much speculation. Some believe that a prolonged drought, which would have depleted their water supply, may have caused the ancestral Puebloans to abandon their settlements in search of more reliable resources. Others point to the possibility of internal conflict or raids by neighboring groups, which may have led to the collapse of their society. However, no definitive answers have been found. What caused a thriving culture to disappear so suddenly? The mystery of the ancestral Puebloans is not limited to their disappearance alone. Many questions remain about the exact nature of their society, their religion, and their technological advancements. For instance, how did they achieve such precision in their architecture, particularly in the construction of their kivas and other ceremonial spaces? Some researchers speculate that the ancestral Puebloans used advanced tools or techniques that have been lost to history. Others point to the possibility of outside influences, suggesting that there may have been contact with other ancient civilizations, such as the Maya or the Aztecs, whose knowledge of astronomy and architecture may have shaped the ancestral Puebloans' designs. But is this theory simply speculation, or is there a kernel of truth hidden in these distant connections? Adding to the enigma is the question of the significance of the rock art and petroglyphs found throughout the region. These intricate designs, carved into the walls of cliffs and canyons, are thought to have been created by the ancestral Puebloans as a form of communication or spiritual expression. The images, depictions of animals, human figures, and geometric shapes, are deeply mysterious. What did these symbols mean to the ancestral Puebloans? Were they purely decorative, or did they serve a deeper, more ritualistic purpose? Could they be a record of historical events, spiritual beliefs, or astronomical observations? The exact meaning of these petroglyphs remains unknown, adding yet another layer of mystery to the already complex puzzle of the ancestral Puebloans' culture. The story of the ancestral Puebloans, then, is one that leaves us with more questions than answers. Their stunning architectural achievements, their mastery of agriculture, and their deep spiritual connection to the land all speak to a culture that was far more advanced than we might initially assume. And yet, much of their history remains buried, hidden in the cliffs and canyons of the Four Corners region, waiting to be rediscovered. As we stand amidst the ancient ruins, pondering the mysteries of the ancestral Puebloans, we are reminded of the vastness of human history and the knowledge that remains just out of reach. The answers to the questions surrounding this fascinating civilization may be lost to time, but perhaps, with continued study and exploration, some small piece of the puzzle will eventually be uncovered. Until then, we are left to wonder, what was their true legacy? What secrets do the stone walls, petroglyphs, and ruins of the ancestral Puebloans still hold, waiting for us to uncover? As we leave behind the enigmatic ruins and ancient knowledge of the ancestral Puebloans, we turn our gaze northward, toward the rugged and mist-covered landscape of Nova Scotia, Canada. Here, amidst dense forests and winding rivers, lies a hidden mystery, one that has captivated archaeologists and indigenous communities for centuries. Enclosures National Park, a place of incredible natural beauty, is home to a collection of ancient petroglyphs that seem to whisper secrets from a time long past. These intricate rock carvings, etched into the stone by the Mi'kmaq people centuries ago, are a window into a world both spiritual and mysterious, offering us a glimpse into the world view of a culture deeply connected to its land. Enclosures, a serene haven of forests, lakes, and rivers, stretches across an expanse of more than 400 square kilometers. The landscape, with its misty mornings and towering pines, is as much a part of the story as the petroglyphs themselves. The petroglyphs can be found on the smooth granite surfaces of large boulders, scattered along the shores of lakes and rivers within the park. As sunlight reflects off the water's surface and filters through the canopy above, it casts a soft, golden glow on these ancient carvings, marking the stones with the echoes of a distant time. The images themselves are deeply evocative, crafted with precision and skill. Some show simple geometric patterns, circles, spirals, and lines, while others depict more intricate scenes of animals, humans, and the natural world. The Mi'kmaq, who have lived in this region for thousands of years, are believed to have created these petroglyphs to tell stories, mark important events, and communicate with the spiritual world. Their art forms, woven into the very fabric of the landscape, are a testament to their understanding of the environment and their deep spiritual connection to it. But while much of this knowledge has been passed down through generations, the exact meaning of these petroglyphs remains elusive. What did they signify to the Mi'kmaq people when they first carved them into the stone? Were they simply artistic expressions, or did they hold deeper, sacred meaning, perhaps even a record of cosmic events or celestial knowledge? These questions become even more intriguing when we consider the locations of the petroglyphs. Many of the carvings are positioned near water sources, leading some researchers to speculate that the site may have held special significance for the Mi'kmaq, who have long viewed water as a sacred, life-giving force. The presence of certain symbols, like the spiral, is also noteworthy. Spirals have been used in cultures around the world as representations of life cycles, the cosmos, and spiritual journeys. Were these symbols tied to rituals or ceremonies? Did they mark the passage of seasons, the alignment of the stars, or the changing of the tides in a cosmological dance? One of the most captivating aspects of the petroglyphs at Kejimkujik is their connection to the natural world. The Mi'kmaq people were keen observers of nature, attuned to the rhythms of the land and the sky. They were skilled hunters and fishermen, using their knowledge of the landscape to thrive in an often harsh environment. The petroglyphs seem to reflect this intimate relationship with the world around them. Some carvings depict the animals that were central to their diet and culture: fish, birds, and land mammals, while others show abstract patterns that might have been designed to represent the movement of the stars or the changing seasons. The question of the purpose behind these carvings is not easily answered. While some scholars believe that they were meant as a form of communication, possibly to tell stories, record important events, or convey sacred teachings, others suggest that they may have been used for ceremonial or ritualistic purposes. The location of the petroglyphs near water could indicate that they were intended as offerings or as a means of communicating with the spirits of the water, a realm believed to hold great power in the Mi'kmaq belief system. Perhaps the most intriguing mystery of the Kejimkujik petroglyphs is their relationship to the stars and the cosmos. While there is no concrete evidence to suggest that the Mi'kmaq people possessed advanced astronomical knowledge in the way that other ancient cultures, such as the Maya or the Egyptians, did, the presence of certain symbols and their alignment with the natural landscape raises compelling questions. The Mi'kmaq had a deep respect for the natural world and a rich oral tradition, much of which was focused on understanding the cosmos, the seasons, and the cycles of the moon. Could the spirals and other geometric shapes carved into the stone represent not only life on Earth, but also the movement of the stars, the alignment of the planets, or the paths of celestial bodies? There are some researchers who suggest that these petroglyphs might have served as a kind of astronomical calendar, marking the changing seasons, the timing of hunting migrations, or the best times to harvest. The Mi'kmaq were undoubtedly keen observers of the sky and the natural world, and the carving of these images might have been a way to keep track of the celestial events that governed their lives. But if these petroglyphs do indeed hold a record of astronomical knowledge, why do they remain so enigmatic? Were these carvings meant to be understood by all, or were they reserved for a select few, those who held the key to the hidden knowledge of the stars? One particularly striking feature of the petroglyphs is their age. Although the Mi'kmaq people have lived in the region for thousands of years, many of the carvings are believed to be over 1,000 years old. The fact that they have withstood the passage of time, remaining visible on the granite surfaces despite the harsh weather conditions and the erosion of the natural environment, is a testament to the skill of their creators. Yet, this durability also raises questions. How were these petroglyphs preserved for so long? Were they carved using a tool or technique that has since been lost to history? Did the Mi'kmaq possess knowledge of the natural elements that allowed them to craft these enduring symbols? As we contemplate the mystery of these petroglyphs, we are confronted by an unsettling thought. How much knowledge has been lost over time? While the Mi'kmaq oral tradition has preserved many of their stories, teachings, and spiritual beliefs, the full significance of these petroglyphs remains out of reach. What happened to the wisdom of the ancestors who carved these stones? Did the meanings of the symbols fade over generations, or were they intentionally hidden, kept sacred and protected from outsiders? It is possible that, just as with many other ancient sites, The full meaning of the petroglyphs will never be fully understood by modern researchers. Perhaps they hold a mystery that was never meant to be solved, a puzzle that can only be partially unlocked by those who are attuned to the spiritual and cultural context of the Mi'kmaq people. Or perhaps, as more research is conducted and new discoveries are made, the pieces of this ancient puzzle will begin to fall into place, shedding light on a forgotten chapter of human history. In the end, the petroglyphs at Kejimkujik are more than just rock carvings. They are a silent testament to a culture that thrived long before the arrival of Europeans, a culture that sought to understand the universe in ways that are still not fully grasped. The meaning of these petroglyphs, and the mysteries they hold, continues to linger in the air, as fresh as the morning mist that rolls off the lakes and rivers. What knowledge might still be hidden beneath the stone? What secrets might they yet reveal about the relationship between the Mi'kmaq people and the world they inhabited? As we look to the future, we are reminded that the mysteries of the past are never fully gone. They remain with us, waiting to be uncovered. As we stand on the shores of Kejimkujik, gazing at the petroglyphs carved into the ancient granite, it becomes clear that the mystery of these symbols is not one that can be easily unraveled. These rock carvings are more than just art. They are a profound testament to the worldview of the Mi'kmaq people, a people whose connection to the earth, the sky, and the cosmos was both intricate and deep. While modern science and archaeology may never fully decode their meaning, there is an undeniable truth that resonates through these ancient marks. The land speaks, and the stories of the past are etched into its surface, waiting to be understood by those who listen carefully. The beauty of Kejimkujik's petroglyphs lies not only in their artistry, but in the questions they raise. What cosmic knowledge did the Mi'kmaq hold that was so important to preserve in stone? Were these carvings meant to be read by future generations, or were they created as a form of protection, a sacred bond with the spirits that guided their lives? In the absence of a written language, the Mi'kmaq turned to the land itself, carving symbols that would stand the test of time, symbols that, like the water flowing around them, continue to change and reveal new meanings with each passing season. As we leave behind the mystical petroglyphs of Kejimkujik, we find ourselves drawn southward to the windswept plains and towering peaks of Wyoming, USA. Nestled high in the Bighorn Mountains, in the quiet expanse of the Medicine Wheel site, lies an ancient enigma that continues to confound modern archaeologists, historians, and indigenous elders alike. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel, a stone circle that stands as both a monument and a map, offers us a glimpse into a worldview deeply attuned to the cosmos, the earth, and the spiritual forces that shape them. The Medicine Wheel, as it's often called, is situated at an elevation of about 9,600 feet, where the air is thin, the winds fierce, and the landscape vast in its solitude. From this remote high-altitude location, visitors can look out over a panorama of rugged mountain peaks, lush meadows, and deep valleys. The silence is profound, only broken by the occasional gust of wind that moves through the trees and over the open expanse of rocky terrain. The site, now protected within the Bighorn National Forest, remains a place of reverence and mystery, its true purpose still debated by those who study it. The stone circle itself is composed of a series of rocks arranged in a perfect, radiating pattern, a central cairn surrounded by an outer circle, with spokes extending outward in multiple directions. At first glance, it might seem like an ordinary stone formation, a remnant of some long-forgotten time. But as one looks closer, it becomes clear that the construction of the medicine wheel is far from casual. Every stone seems meticulously placed, every alignment carefully considered, as though the wheel was designed with a purpose that we have yet to fully understand. Archaeologists estimate that the medicine wheel was built around 1,000 years ago, though some theories suggest it could be much older. The site is most often associated with the Crow, Cheyenne, and other Plains indigenous peoples, but there are also speculations that it may have been used by different groups over the centuries, including early hunters and gatherers, as well as spiritual leaders. The fact that the site is located in such a harsh and remote environment adds to its mystique. Why build such a structure in a place where only the most dedicated would go? In its most basic form, the medicine wheel seems to be a physical manifestation of the cyclical nature of life and the cosmos. The circle itself, a universal symbol of wholeness and eternity, is a reflection of indigenous spiritual beliefs that view the world as a series of interconnected cycles: birth, death, and rebirth. In many indigenous cultures, the medicine wheel is seen as a tool for spiritual healing and guidance, helping to align individuals with the natural rhythms of the earth and the universe. The arrangement of the stones, with their radiating spokes, mirrors the way in which time and energy flow outward from a single point, creating an endless web of connection between all things. However, the medicine wheel's true function remains elusive. Many scholars and indigenous elders have suggested that the site was used for ceremonial purposes, possibly as a place for prayer, healing, or marking important celestial events. The wheel's alignment with the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, points to a deep understanding of geography and astronomy. The positions of the spokes appear to correspond with various astronomical events, such as the summer and winter solstices, the movement of the stars, and the changing positions of the sun and moon over the course of the year. Yet, despite these intriguing connections, the precise nature of the medicine wheel's use remains speculative. Some believe it was a kind of celestial calendar, a tool for tracking the passage of time and guiding seasonal activities such as hunting, planting, and harvesting. Others suggest it may have been a site for vision quests or spiritual rites, where individuals could commune with the spirits or the cosmos. The wheel could have also served as a map of the world, with its spokes symbolizing the cardinal directions and the outer circle representing the earth itself. There are also fringe theories that suggest the medicine wheel may have been a place for astronomical observation, aligning not only with the sun and the moon, but with distant stars and constellations. Some researchers have pointed out that certain stones in the wheel align with the rising and setting points of stars, such as the Pleiades cluster, which holds significant meaning in many indigenous cultures. Could the medicine wheel have served as an ancient observatory, used by the people who constructed it to track the movement of the stars and planets? If so, what was the deeper significance of these celestial alignments? One of the most compelling aspects of the medicine wheel is the mystery surrounding its construction. The sheer scale of the project suggests a level of organization and effort that goes far beyond the capabilities of a small group of people. How did the builders of the medicine wheel transport and position these massive stones? Some stones weigh as much as 1,000 pounds, and yet they are arranged with such precision that it's difficult to believe they were simply moved by hand. Were the people who built the wheel using tools and techniques that have since been lost to history? Could they have had knowledge of engineering or construction methods that we are only now beginning to rediscover? Further adding to the enigma is the fact that the wheel's construction seems to be perfectly suited to the natural environment. The alignment of the spokes and the placement of the stones reflect not just an understanding of the stars, but an intimate knowledge of the land and its features. Could the medicine wheel have been designed as a guide to navigating the terrain, with the stone spokes pointing toward important landmarks, water sources, or hunting grounds? Was it more than just a spiritual site? It could also have been a wayfinding tool, one that helped the builders chart their movements across the land, linking the heavens to the earth in a very tangible way. There are also whispers among indigenous communities that the medicine wheel holds a sacred and spiritual significance beyond its physical form. Some elders believe that the wheel is a living, breathing entity, one that carries with it the wisdom of the ancestors and the power to heal those who visit it with pure intent. According to these traditions, the medicine wheel is not merely a stone structure. It is a place where the spirit world and the physical world converge, where the energies of the earth and the cosmos meet, creating a powerful force of transformation. Could the medicine wheel have been a center of spiritual and ceremonial energy, a site where the people who built it came to seek guidance, healing, or enlightenment? Despite the fascination surrounding the site, there are still many unanswered questions. What role did the medicine wheel play in the daily lives of the indigenous peoples who constructed it? Was it a site for practical purposes, such as marking the passage of time, or was it a sacred space reserved for rituals and ceremonies? How did the builders transport the massive stones, and what tools did they use to shape and position them with such precision? And perhaps most importantly, what deeper cosmic truths did the medicine wheel encode in its stones, and how much of that knowledge has been lost over time? The medicine wheel remains a powerful, enigmatic symbol, a testament to the ingenuity, wisdom, and spiritual depth of the indigenous peoples who created it. As we stand before its weathered stones, it is easy to feel the weight of centuries pressing upon us, as if the site itself is trying to communicate something to us, something that has been hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. The true purpose of the medicine wheel may never be fully understood, but its mystery invites us to consider the possibility that the ancients knew more about the forces that shape our world than we have yet realized. For now, the Bighorn medicine wheel remains a silent witness to a forgotten era, an ancient puzzle that humanity continues to grapple with. What secrets lie within the stones? What knowledge still resides in the wheel's powerful geometry, waiting for the right moment to be revealed? As we move forward in our exploration of these ancient mysteries, we are reminded that some answers may forever remain just out of reach, leaving us with only the wonder of the unknown. As we leave the site, the sense of awe lingers, as if the Bighorn medicine wheel has shared only a glimpse of its deeper meaning. The stones, weathered by time, stand like silent sentinels, guarding the knowledge and wisdom of those who created them. It is a site that challenges us to look beyond the physical, into the intangible realms of spirituality, cosmology, and ancient understanding. Each visit, each study, brings us closer to uncovering the secrets, but at the same time, it reinforces the realization that the true power of the medicine wheel might never be fully revealed. Could it be that some knowledge is meant to remain hidden? The more we learn about the wheel, the more we are confronted with the complexity of its design and purpose. Its creators, seemingly attuned to the cosmos in ways we are still trying to understand, have left behind a legacy that transcends mere architecture. The wheel is more than just a structure. It is a portal, a reflection of how deeply our ancestors were connected to the world around them, to the celestial cycles, and perhaps even to realms beyond our comprehension. The lessons it holds may be ones we are still too young in our understanding to fully grasp. As we stand at the edge of this mysterious landscape, gazing at the ancient stone circle, it is impossible not to wonder what other lost pieces of knowledge remain hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment in history to be uncovered. The Bighorn medicine wheel is not just a relic of the past, it is an invitation to reconnect with a deeper understanding of the earth, the sky, and the forces that bind them together. Perhaps, as time passes, we will find the answers, or perhaps the wheel will remain, a timeless enigma that continues to inspire future generations to seek and wonder. As we continue our exploration of ancient archaeological mysteries that have captured the collective imagination of humanity, we now turn our focus to a place that seems to rise from the earth itself, shaped by hands unknown. Hidden in the rolling hills of southern Ohio, the Serpent Mound is a striking and enigmatic earthwork that has puzzled researchers, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. Its sweeping curves, precise coils, and the deliberate way it winds across the landscape have made it one of the most iconic and mysterious ancient sites in North America. Yet, despite its fame, much about this remarkable monument remains shrouded in uncertainty. The mound stretches over 1,300 feet in length, making it one of the largest effigy mounds in North America. At first glance, it seems to form a colossal snake or serpent, its sinuous body undulating across the landscape. The head of the serpent is clearly defined, curving sharply upward, while its tail tapers off into the earth. The pattern seems deliberate, almost as if it were designed to follow an invisible, celestial rhythm, curves that mirror the natural flow of the land, yet also appear intentionally crafted, precise, and monumental in scale. Serpent Mound is not just a geographical curiosity, but a site that elicits deep questions about the people who built it, their motivations, and their possible connection to a larger, yet-to-be-discovered network of similar sites across North America. It's a site that seems to belong to no single period or culture, blending influences from multiple ancient peoples and spanning several centuries of history. This intricate mound has been attributed to various Native American groups, but the exact culture responsible remains the subject of ongoing debate. The first recorded sighting of the Serpent Mound occurred in 1600 by European settlers, yet long before these settlers arrived, indigenous peoples would have been familiar with the site. The mound itself is thought to have been constructed sometime around 300 BCE to 300 CE, though some scholars argue it may have been created much later, possibly in the early centuries of the Common Era. In its current form, the mound is an unmistakable symbol, yet the time of its original construction, its creators, and its purpose remain elusive. Some historians suggest that the mound was built by the Adena people, an ancient culture of mound builders who lived in the Ohio Valley region between 800 BCE and 100 CE. The Adena are known for their burial mounds, which were often used to house the remains of prominent figures, and their distinctive art and pottery. The Serpent Mound, with its complex and deliberate shape, could have had symbolic significance for the Adena, perhaps representing a connection to the spiritual or natural world, or an effort to convey the power of the serpent as a mythological or religious figure. However, other scholars argue that the site was constructed by a later culture, the Hopewell people, who followed the Adena. The Hopewell were also mound builders, but they are distinguished by their more elaborate earthworks and complex trade networks, extending as far as the Gulf Coast. Some evidence of Hopewell-style artifacts has been found near Serpent Mound, lending credence to the theory that the mound was built later than the Adena period, perhaps as late as 200 CE. Yet, despite these potential clues, there is no definitive proof linking the site to the Hopewell or any other group. The most perplexing aspect of the Serpent Mound is its strange shape and alignment. Unlike most other effigy mounds, which tend to form simple geometric shapes or circles, the Serpent Mound seems to embody an abstract representation of a serpent, its long body spiraling in multiple coils. The head of the serpent seems to point toward an unusual feature, a large circular depression in the earth that may represent the serpent's mouth. This could have had symbolic significance, perhaps tied to the serpent's role in local myths or its connection to death and rebirth, or the changing of seasons. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Serpent Mound is its alignment with celestial events. Studies have shown that the mound's design is closely tied to the cycles of the sun, and it may have been intended to track the solstices or other celestial phenomena. Some researchers point to the alignment of the serpent's coils with the sun's path during the summer solstice, while others suggest that the head of the serpent aligns with the position of the sun during the lunar eclipse. If this is true, then the mound could have functioned as a kind of astronomical calendar, perhaps used to mark significant moments in time or to guide ceremonial practices connected to celestial bodies. The theory of an astronomical purpose behind the mound's construction leads us into the realm of speculation and mystery. Could the Serpent Mound have been a kind of ancient observatory? Did the builders of the mound possess advanced knowledge of the stars and the movements of celestial bodies, far beyond what we might expect of early Native American groups? This question has prompted comparisons between the Serpent Mound and other ancient structures around the world, such as Stonehenge in England or the pyramids in Egypt, which were also used to mark celestial alignments and track the passage of time. But there are other theories that move beyond the practical or ceremonial. Some believe that the Serpent Mound may have been intended to represent a connection to an ancient spiritual world. Serpents have long been symbols of transformation, power, and knowledge in various cultures around the globe. The serpent's ability to shed its skin is often seen as a metaphor for renewal and rebirth, suggesting that the mound's design might have been connected to cycles of death and resurrection. In many Native American myths, the serpent is also associated with water, fertility, and the earth itself, connecting it to the life-giving forces of nature. Could the mound have been a symbolic representation of the Earth's power and the human desire to align with those forces? However, some of the more fringe theories suggest that the Serpent Mound may be a remnant of an ancient civilization that predates all known Native American cultures. In these theories, the mound is seen as evidence of a forgotten people, an ancient race whose knowledge and influence spread across the continent, leaving behind cryptic symbols and structures that remain inexplicable to modern researchers. These ideas often invoke legends of lost civilizations, such as Atlantis, and propose that the ancient mound builders were part of a global network of mysterious cultures that spanned both the Old and New Worlds. While these ideas are largely speculative and unsupported by evidence, they add a layer of intrigue to the mystery of the mound. Despite the numerous theories that have been proposed, the true purpose and meaning of the Serpent Mound remain tantalizingly out of reach. Each new discovery adds a layer of complexity, but also deepens the mystery. As we stand at the foot of the mound, it becomes clear that its story has not been fully told. The serpent that coils its way across the land, its head rising to the sky, remains as much a symbol of the unknown as it does of the world we think we know. Who built it? What did it mean to them? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? Like so many of the ancient mysteries we've explored, the Serpent Mound serves as a reminder of the vastness of human history and the layers of time that have yet to be unraveled. The mound remains an enigma, an earthwork crafted with great care, thought, and purpose, yet shrouded in a veil of mystery. What role did it play in the lives of those who created it? And how much more do we still have to learn about the ancient cultures that once walked this land? The answers may be lost to time, but the questions will continue to reverberate through the ages, inviting us to look more deeply at the earth beneath our feet, and at the mysteries that still lie hidden in plain sight. As the serpent coils its way through the landscape, we are reminded of how much we have yet to understand about the ancient peoples who left these marks behind. What motivated them to design such a monumental structure, one that still commands awe and curiosity thousands of years later? Was it purely symbolic, tied to the cosmos and the natural cycles of life and death? Or could there have been a more pragmatic purpose, something as simple as marking time or guiding the course of human life through seasonal changes? These are the questions that linger, unanswered, as we continue to study the site. In some ways, the Serpent Mound is like the land itself, layered with history, yet forever holding its secrets close. The tools, the methods, and the purposes behind this incredible structure may be lost to us, but its symbolism endures. The serpent, with its grace and power, still winds its way through the earth, a living symbol of mystery, rebirth, and the forces that govern our world. Its coils are a reminder that while we strive to understand the past, we may never fully unlock all its secrets. Perhaps the most profound question we are left with is not just about who built the mound or what it was used for, but about how this ancient monument continues to captivate our imagination today. What does the Serpent Mound tell us about ourselves, the modern-day seekers of knowledge and connection to the past? In its silent, winding shape, it asks us to look beyond the surface of things and consider the deeper meaning embedded in the landscape itself. How much do we still have to learn, and how much more will we discover as we peel back the layers of history that surround us? Only time will tell, but for now, the serpent remains as enigmatic as ever. As we venture deeper into the heart of North America's ancient mysteries, we turn our attention to a peculiar and almost inexplicable phenomenon, an enigma that stretches across the plains of Alberta, Canada. Hidden beneath the vast expanse of sky, amongst the rolling hills and endless prairies, lie the Nazca-like lines of North America. These mysterious geoglyphs, often compared to their famous counterparts in Peru, have been the subject of intrigue, speculation, and wonder for those few who have had the chance to study them. Located in the remote wilderness of Alberta, the lines are etched into the earth with an eerie precision. While not as widely recognized as the Nazca lines of Peru, these figures, drawn with such care and thought, have captured the imaginations of those who have stumbled upon them. The patterns, while simpler in form compared to their South American counterparts, are no less perplexing. They appear as long, sweeping lines, circles, and geometric shapes stretching across the landscape in ways that are difficult to explain. At first glance, the Nazca-like lines of Alberta seem to be nothing more than natural formations, wind patterns, grazing animals, or the occasional drought that has carved strange pathways into the earth. But the more one looks, the more it becomes clear that these lines have been intentionally created, etched into the surface with purpose, and their patterns seem too deliberate to be explained by natural forces alone. The question that immediately arises is, who made these lines, and why? The answer is elusive, for no definitive evidence has been found to link these lines to a particular culture or time period. Unlike the Nazca lines in Peru, where centuries of archaeological study have yielded some understanding of their creators, namely the Nazca culture, the mystery of these lines in Alberta remains largely unsolved. There are no known records or artifacts that definitively point to who created them, nor any historical accounts that explain their meaning. Some believe these lines are the work of the indigenous peoples of the region, dating back to the ancient cultures that inhabited what is now Canada. Could these geoglyphs be the product of a long-forgotten tradition, a ceremonial or religious site marking the landscape with purposeful patterns? Many native cultures in North America have used the land as a canvas for symbols of power, connection, and storytelling. The question then arises, did the indigenous peoples of Alberta use these lines for similar purposes? Were these lines created as markers for sacred sites, for trade routes, or as part of a larger ceremonial tradition? While such explanations are possible, they remain speculative. The most obvious clue linking the Alberta lines to the indigenous peoples of North America is the fact that similar patterns have been discovered in other parts of the continent, though not to the same scale. In some areas, indigenous groups are known to have used earthworks and mounds as part of their spiritual practices. Could the lines in Alberta be part of a larger, once vibrant network of ceremonial art? Others suggest that the lines may be older, dating back to the time when nomadic tribes roamed the vast wilderness of Canada's prairies. If this is true, they may have been created by a culture now lost to history, perhaps one that left no other physical traces behind. If this were the case, the lines would be a unique artifact of an ancient people whose knowledge, customs, and ways of life were entirely different from those we know today. But there are even more speculative theories. Some suggest that the lines are not the work of human hands at all, but rather the result of extraterrestrial activity. This theory draws on the idea that similar geoglyphs, like the Nazca lines in Peru, could be linked to alien visitors who sought to communicate with humans through giant symbols on the Earth's surface. While this hypothesis has been dismissed by most mainstream scholars, it has gained some traction in the world of fringe theorists, who point to the apparent complexity and scale of the lines as evidence of a higher intelligence. Could these mysterious markings be evidence of ancient contact with beings from beyond our planet? Further complicating the mystery is the fact that many of these lines remain only partially visible. Hidden under layers of soil, vegetation, and the passage of time, some of the lines are nearly impossible to discern from the ground. Their full extent can only be appreciated from the air, much like the Nazca lines. This raises another question. Were these geoglyphs intended to be viewed from above? If so, why? Was there a ritualistic or ceremonial purpose behind this aerial perspective, or could it be that the creators had some knowledge of aerial viewports long before human flight? Another layer of complexity comes from the possibility that these lines are not as ancient as they appear. Some researchers have suggested that the lines were not made by ancient civilizations at all, but rather were constructed by European settlers or explorers who arrived in North America much later. In this view, the lines could have been an attempt to mark the land, define boundaries, or create something symbolic in response to the new world around them. The theory is compelling, though it raises more questions than it answers. How could such lines, so precisely created, have gone unnoticed for centuries? It is also possible that the lines were created for more practical purposes, such as a means of navigation. If the people who lived in this area had a profound knowledge of the land and its topography, it stands to reason they could have used these markings as landmarks or guides, helping travelers move across the vast, seemingly uncharted landscape. In this context, the lines would serve not as purely ceremonial markers, but as functional tools. As with many ancient mysteries, the lack of conclusive evidence leaves the door open for a variety of theories, some grounded in historical context, others drifting toward the speculative or fantastical. What is certain is that the Nazca-like lines of Alberta remain a puzzle, one that continues to intrigue and mystify those who come across it. As we stand on the edge of the vast, open plains of Alberta, gazing at the faint lines carved into the earth, it is easy to be struck by a profound sense of wonder. What secrets do these lines hold? Are they the remnants of an ancient culture whose story is lost to time, or are they something far older, perhaps the work of a people whose existence was forgotten long ago? Despite the passage of centuries, the mystery remains unsolved. The lines continue to stretch out across the land, silent, enigmatic, waiting to be understood. What remains hidden beneath the earth and the skies? Perhaps in time, the answers will come. But for now, the Nazca-like lines of Alberta serve as a reminder of how much we still have to learn about the ancient world that once surrounded us. As the world advances in technology and understanding, it becomes clear that many of these mysteries are not simply relics of the past, but invitations to deeper inquiry. With modern aerial surveillance, new methods of satellite imaging, and ongoing archaeological expeditions, the Nazca-like lines of Alberta may yet reveal their secrets. Could these tools hold the key to unlocking the final answers about their origin? Perhaps further exploration will offer a glimpse into the past that can finally explain these enigmatic geoglyphs, or perhaps, like so many ancient mysteries, they will remain unsolved, forever a piece of the unknown. In the end, what the lines truly represent, whether ceremonial, functional, or something altogether different, remains a question. Their haunting presence in the heart of Alberta speaks to something greater the limits of our knowledge and the capacity of human creativity to shape the world in ways that transcend time. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the earth, beneath our feet, waiting for us to look closely enough to see the story it is trying to tell. Imagine, for a moment, standing on the edge of the vast Canadian Arctic. The winds whip through the icy air, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting long shadows across the endless white expanse. Here, Amidst the snow-covered tundra and frozen seas, strange, silent structures dot the landscape. Stone formations that seem out of place, yet they have stood the test of time. These are the Inuksuk, iconic markers created by ancient peoples long before modern navigation systems. But who built them? And why? Even now, centuries later, the mysteries surrounding these stone figures remain a subject of debate and intrigue. The Inuksuk, often built from carefully stacked stones, are easily recognizable by their humanoid shape. A central upright stone with arms, sometimes extended outward, sometimes at a subtle angle. They stand like sentinels in the frigid wilderness, their positions seemingly deliberate, their purpose enigmatic. Some are small, no more than a few feet high, while others tower over the surrounding landscape, visible for miles in every direction. Whether on the open tundra, near frozen coastlines, or atop jagged mountain ridges, their presence is both reassuring and unsettling, evoking a quiet yet persistent mystery. Historically, these stone structures are believed to have been built by the indigenous peoples of the Arctic, most notably the Inuit, who have lived in the region for thousands of years. The word Inuksuk itself derives from the Inuit language, meaning something which acts for or performs the function of a person. A seemingly simple phrase, yet it holds profound meaning. These markers were not just piles of stone. They were, and in some cases still are, powerful symbols of connection, guidance, and survival. In the harsh, unforgiving environment of the Arctic, where survival depended on knowing the land and its ever-changing conditions, the Inuksuk served a practical role. They guided travelers, marking important routes or locations. They pointed the way to food sources, shelter, and sometimes to places of spiritual significance. Their purpose was both functional and symbolic, acting as beacons of hope in a land where danger could be as invisible as the shifting winds. For centuries, explorers and researchers have documented these structures. In the 19th century, European explorers first encountered Inuksuk markers as they made their way across the Arctic region, and soon after, the stone structures became known to the wider world. What was once a tool of the indigenous people became, for outsiders, a point of fascination, a tangible connection to a way of life that was largely unknown to them. Some Inuksuk were even mistaken for representations of gods or figures of cultural importance, leading to various theories about their symbolic meaning. Yet, despite years of study and scholarly investigation, much about their origins and deeper purpose remains elusive. One of the most straightforward explanations is that Inuksuk were primarily used as navigational aids. The Arctic is a land of vast, featureless landscapes, where natural landmarks can be sparse, and the weather can make the terrain almost unrecognizable. A lone traveler or group of people might rely on these stone figures as markers to ensure they stayed on the correct path, especially when visibility was poor or during the long, dark winters. They could point towards a campsite, a hunting ground, or a safe passage through dangerous terrain. Indeed, many Inuksuk are located along ancient migration routes, suggesting that they were key to survival in these remote regions. However, the true scope of their role is far more complex. In some instances, the placement of these markers has led researchers to speculate that they were not merely functional, but also spiritual. Inuksuk were often erected in places that held particular significance to the indigenous peoples, such as near the sea ice or at the base of sacred mountains. Some were thought to serve as markers for hunting grounds, pointing the way to places where animals were more likely to be found. Others might have acted as commemorations or memorials, marking the passing of a loved one or a community leader. Could it be that these stone figures were symbols of respect, crafted not just to guide, but also to honor? Yet, as we venture deeper into the history of the Inuksuk, we encounter an unsettling pattern. The closer we look, the more questions arise, and many of them have no clear answers. Some Inuksuk are positioned in seemingly random locations, with no immediate practical purpose for their placement. For example, a solitary figure might be found atop a remote ridge or in the middle of an icy plain, where it seems impossible that anyone would need a marker. Why were these locations chosen? Was there something about the land itself that made these places worthy of recognition? Some archaeologists suggest that these sites may hold ancient knowledge, perhaps connecting the markers to celestial movements or astronomical alignments. Could it be that the Inuksuk were not just guides to the physical world, but also to a metaphysical one? Adding another layer to the mystery is the sheer variation in the form and construction of Inuksuk. While many follow a basic humanoid shape, others differ dramatically, suggesting that different groups, or even different cultures, were responsible for creating them. In some cases, Inuksuk are simple piles of stones. In others, they are highly intricate structures, carefully designed to mimic human figures, complete with arms and legs. Could these differences indicate regional variations, or do they point to multiple groups with differing beliefs or purposes? This diversity in design fuels further speculation. Some researchers argue that the Inuksuk may have had more than just a practical or spiritual role. They may have been instruments of communication. Could the way a figure was constructed and positioned convey a message to others? In a region where human contact was scarce and often fleeting, might the Inuksuk have served as a form of nonverbal language, telling others who had passed through, what they had left behind, or where they were going? This theory draws from the understanding that communication in many indigenous cultures often extended beyond spoken words, utilizing symbols, the land, and nature itself to convey meaning. And then there is the question of the Inuksuk's origins. Were they truly built only by the Inuit? Or could other ancient cultures have left their mark in the Arctic? Some fringe theories even suggest that Inuksuk could be remnants of a lost civilization, perhaps from a time when the Arctic was warmer and more hospitable to human life. If so, could these figures be evidence of an advanced culture that predates the known history of the indigenous peoples? Though there is no concrete evidence to support such claims, the idea that these stone markers might be the remains of a forgotten past cannot easily be dismissed. As we delve into the history and possible meanings of these enigmatic structures, one thing becomes abundantly clear. The Inuksuk are not just markers in the landscape. They are markers in history, representing an enduring mystery that refuses to be fully understood. Despite centuries of study, we are still left with more questions than answers. What do these ancient stone figures truly signify? Were they simply navigational tools, or do they carry deeper, more profound meanings that are yet to be uncovered? And as the Arctic continues to change, as climate change melts ancient ice and exposes new landscapes, will we finally uncover the secrets that have been buried for millennia? For now, the Inuksuk stand silent and unmoving, their stoic figures holding the weight of a past we have yet to fully comprehend. Perhaps the answers lie within the land itself, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to listen. Or perhaps the mystery will remain forever unsolved, an invitation to wonder, to question, and to explore the depths of human history that still elude us.